Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here, welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, Episode 7, Requiem of the Golden Witch. Thank you so much for joining me here on stream. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. Hey, Kieran, thank you so much for being first. Welcome, Psycho Reaper, good to see you. Ramathal, thank you so much for dropping by. Hi Hakaze, hi CB, Willful, thank you so much for dropping by. Aru, good to see you. Kamakun, Vibarium, welcome, welcome. Ash, good to see you. Thank you so much for dropping by, everyone. So we are continuing episode 7. We are roughly halfway through, and we are currently recounting the tale of the culprit. So spoilers abound, but the culprit has not been directly identified yet. They're kind of speaking with a moniker right now. So they're going under the moniker Yasu and speaking through the character known as Claire to kind of protect their identity and keep some of the mystery, although if you've been paying attention you might be able to piece things together, although it might be a little bit more surprising than you think. But Yasu is currently recounting their tale in a series of miniature chapters, and we just finished chapter 2 where Yasu meets Gop for the first time. So within this episode 7 there are like little mini chapters because we're recounting Yasu's tale, almost like as if we're watching a play, I guess is how they're framing it. Oh, Ash, you finished your class and you passed with an A. Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Good for you. I'm so happy to hear that. Alright, without further ado, let's continue reading. And this will be my last stream for a while because tomorrow I'm going back for my second round of eye surgery, and I'll be out of commission for roughly a week or so. If you're watching this on YouTube, though, there should not be an interruption in videos because I have videos queued up for the next couple weeks anyway, so we shouldn't see like a lapse in videos, at least. Okay. Yeah, it's my second round of eye surgery. I got my first one last year, and this is a touch-up surgery to polish off the first one. Alright, let's get reading. Yeah, seriously, not only was Yasu slow-witted, that kid also lost stuff all the time. And even so, Yasu always had this look, like someone else had taken whatever was away. It really pissed me off. That kid just didn't know how to concentrate. If you always act in that dreamy way without thinking, it's no surprise you'll do bad work. But it was only like that in the beginning, right? After some time, that kid started concentrating, and all the bad stuff stopped happening. Really? Well, it was all that stuff that anyone should be able to do anyway. Yes, thank you for all the well wishes, everyone, and Yas Mine Star, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Learning to do things that everyone can do is part of growing up. I doubt the rest of you were so clever about everything when you first started, yes? Are you kidding? If we weren't clever, we'd never have been selected to work for the Ushimiya family. We're supposed to be the elite. The fact that Yasu was young was no excuse. That's right. If Yasu's supposed to learn cleverness by growing up, that should have been done before coming to work for the Ushimiyas. Come on, that kid worked really hard to balance school and work. I think you're all being too harsh. We were selected because we made it through a harsh process, right? There's no need for us to pamper Yasu. I'm sick of this. I don't get why someone as dull-witted as Yasu was chosen. Being selected as an Ushimiya family servant was an achievement that all Fukuin children respected. The older servants had achieved glory by making it through the strict selection process. Yasu was so clumsy that they all wondered why that child had been chosen. Of course, Yasu was working very hard for a child of that age. However, before long, the unsatisfied older servants started being mean to Yasu whenever they got the chance. Even after getting used to life on Rokujima, Yasu didn't manage to make a single friend. At least, not any human friends. Chapter 3, Days Enraptured. Oh ho ho! Yes, that can sometimes happen, and always when you're busy. Perhaps a fairy is pulling pranks on you. It's It's a witch pulling pranks on me. I mean, I knew I'd put it right there, and when I looked away for just a second, it disappeared. The witch had pranked me again. I left my master key behind. Madam found out, and I got in a lot of trouble. But I always put my master key in my pocket after I use it. Why was it in a place like that? And this is the third time it's happened. The last 2 times I realized it wasn't in my pocket, and managed to find it before anyone found out. But the third time Madam found it. I was really mad and frustrated with that witch in the red dress. Oh, Beatrice-sama's pranks can be quite troublesome. But if you're dealing with a witch, shouldn't a ritual of some sort do the trick? A ritual? Kumasawa-san started fishing through the kitchen cupboard, saying, "Now where did that get to?" The thing she finally found and brought to me was a kite string. She stretched it out for me to see, then used a knife to cut off a 50-centimeter piece. Try tying this end to the key. Then tie the other end to your pocket button or some other place that doesn't stick out. This charm represents the ritual of the spiderweb. A spiderweb? Like the ones the evil spirits of Rokenjima fear. Good, I'm glad you remembered. It is said that the spiderwebs on this island are imbued with a magical power, and they can be quite effective at repelling evil. See, if you stretch it out like this, it looks like a spiderweb, doesn't it? Oh, this way, that spiderweb-hating Beatrice won't be able to prank you anymore. Hey, Catboy, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for stopping by, good to see you. That does make sense. It really does look like a spiderweb when pulled tight. Since Kumasawa-san says so, it must have some pretty strong evil-repelling power. I could just ask her to make several of these kite strings for me, and then I can tie them to everything I don't want to lose. But of course, that won't be very practical. I'd have strings all over me. What about things I can't keep tied to me, like pencils and erasers? Oh, for times like that, there's a different ritual. All you have to do is make a house for Mr. Pencil and Mr. Eraser. Make a house? You mean build a roof and a bed and stuff? You aren't actually building a house, you're giving them one. For example, take the knife I cut the string with. I want to go home. He's such a lonely kid that he wants to go home the moment he steps outside. So if you leave him anywhere else, he'll get lost and start crying. See, we just left Mr. Knife lying there, so he got lonely and started crying. Poor thing. We have to get Mr. Knife home. Mr. Knife's house is right here. See, his whole family of knives is waiting for him. Mama, I'm home. Welcome back. See? Kumasawa-san returned the knife to the knife holder under the sink. Even though she had done something so ordinary, I felt slightly moved, as though the lost little knife had finished his adventure and finally returned home. Once he slid into the spot he was supposed to be in, all the knives would be together and could have a party. Then Kumasawa-san said we should give them their privacy and shut the door. The poor things hidden by the witch must get lonely easily, so when the witch tells them she'll take them somewhere fun, they're happy to go with her. How can you stop them from doing this? Take them home right away. Exactly. They're lonely, naughty kids, so they'll go with the witch if they get the chance. So you must always take them home quickly. Look at that Mr. Key you just tied to a string. He's sitting there all alone, crying and asking you to put him in his home in your pocket. I'm lonely. The voice of the lonely Master Key finally reached my ears. I hurried to pick it up, took the other end of the string and tied it to my pocket button, and put the key in my pocket. See? I'm home! Mr. Key gets lonely so easily, so take him home right after we use him, okay? If you keep making little friends like this, even Beatrice-sama won't be able to prank you much longer. When break time was over and I stood up to see what I should help next with, I felt a tug, and the key ring with the Master Key fell to the floor. Once again, I had left the Master Key on the side of the sofa and forgotten it was there. The instant I stood up, the string pulled on it and it fell to the floor. Without Kumasawa-san's spiderweb charm, I'd probably have left that Master Key lying here again. The Master Key left all alone would have been led away from the witch and disappeared. Ugh, that was close. Once again, I heard the Master Key, who had almost been left on its own, cry and tell me it wanted to go home. I'm sorry. Come on, let's get back home to my pocket. Yay, I'm home! Thank goodness. I almost got pranked by the witch again. Oh, what's this? What an amusing notion using string like that. All of a sudden, I heard a wild, shocked voice from over my shoulder. It was a voiceless voice. A witch's voice. The kind you can't hear unless you try. Beatrice? That's me, my friend. You forgot about your key again just when I was about to tease you a bit. It's a spiderweb charm that Kumasawa-san showed me. Apparently it does its job well. Indeed. I hate to admit it, but it does. I certainly wouldn't want to touch that. After all, you wouldn't want to put your finger on a razor and slide across it, would you? Ugh, that's a scary example. My finger hurts just thinking about it. But good for you. You didn't have to get yelled at by Natsuya for losing your key again. You should be thanking me. Why? Because I annoyed you, you learned of that ritual, correct? Thanks to that, you managed to avoid that screw-up of forgetting where you left your key once again. In other words, it's all thanks to me. Don't I deserve some gratitude? Ugh. I really don't like it, but she does have a point. Because of all the trouble Beatrice caused me, I talked to Kumasawa-san and learned the ritual from her. Even without the witch's pranking, if I didn't have that ritual, I would have gone to my next job and left the master key here. If that happened, then surely I wouldn't have been able to find the key, and it would have been a big mess. We can call this punishment to make an example. By magnifying your mistakes, I've shown you what they are as a friend. Don't you see how much you've grown? I get the feeling that Kumasawa-san is the one I should be thanking, not you. My, what a thankless job we witches have. Anyway, I win this time. Okay, I need to get back to work now. Very well, my friend. We'll call this your victory. However, I'm bad at giving up. I'll keep watching you even more closely now until I can even the score. Prepare yourself. There are still several small items that a person like you is likely to forget. You can't attach strings to all of them. The spiderweb ritual isn't the only one I have. I also learned the take them home ritual. I won't let you have your way anymore. Let's see how well you actually do. Even so, that's quite the bright smile you've got there. When a witch appears, it should be time to cry, not laugh. Your break time's over. See if you can manage to do your job today without slowing down the older servants. Sure. Today's Sunday, and the weather's wonderful. I better do my best. Indeed. Go to it with all you can manage. Oh, that's right. Sanan's in a bad mood all morning. You better try to avoid eye contact with her. Also, your fortune for the day is water hazard. Make sure you take care when standing near buckets of water. This is you we're talking about. I'll be waiting for you to knock over a button and get scolded, just like usual. Thank you, Beatrice. Back when I still couldn't see her, I simply hated this prank-loving witch. But now that I could talk with her, it felt as though she wasn't all that bad. Of course, there was no need for me to be grateful to her. To the witch called Beatrice, who despises boredom, mocking the misfortune of others is like what eating food is to us. Humans and witches are different, incompatible beings, and yet it feels as though we could become friends. Of course, she's still a witch. I mustn't get careless. And yet, not being careless is a good thing. Thanks to the tricks and rituals I used to keep her at bay, I'm able to concentrate. That could hardly be a bad thing. Those things will be useful for my job and my life, even when I don't have to worry about the witch's pranks. I see. So the witch called Beatrice really is like a demon. Apparently it's possible to build up a friendship, even while speaking hostilely to each other. Ever since then, there was an incredible change in that kid. Because of all the rituals. Oh, that's right. That child was quite faithful when it came to obeying rules, and flawlessly followed all the rituals I taught. You mean by attaching strings to everything, and by doing that going home thing all the time? Yes, that kid would sometimes say it out loud. It was really cute, like watching someone play house with a bunch of tools. Just like a kid. But they were a kid, right? With adults, you can say something one way, and all of them will understand. However, there really are many different types of kids, and you need many different ways to teach them things. If you can just find the right way, they learn quite easily. Some kids learn better when they're punished, and some learn better when they're praised. I used to scare a neighborhood kid and tell him a fairy would take his things if he didn't keep good track of them. Oh, this was the same, except this fairy became a witch. Still, that doesn't sound like fate. After all, you knew this kid was Beatrice's child, didn't you? Yes, I did know. It must have been strange to tell Beatrice's child that the witch Beatrice would play pranks on you unless you put your stuff away neatly. Oh, when a child came and told me that a witch was stealing things and pulling pranks, it made me think. I took it as a sign that the late Beatrice-sama had become a witch, and was coming to teach her child to keep track of things. That's why I thought this the best way to teach that child. That kid started out with a bad reputation for forgetting and losing things, but got a lot more cheery after overcoming those bad habits. By surpassing weaknesses, those weaknesses become strengths, and that is how people gain confidence and grow up. Those small spurts of growth made me feel as though this was my own grandchild. Thank you, Genji-sama. Good work with the big cleanup today. We never know when an important guest might come and bore one of the rarely used rooms. It is important you do not slack off in your cleaning. Of course, all of us are fully aware of this fact. I hope that is the case. When I looked around, I found this. Whose is it? Genji took a master key ring out of his pocket. Apparently someone had dropped their master key. All the servants swung around to look at me, the usual offender. Come on, Yasu, again? You shouldn't be so quick to judge. I have mine, of course. There's no way I'd drop something that important. And the rest of you? I have mine. Got it. So it was you, Yasu. Do you still not get it, even after all that scolding Madam gave you? You're just so... Normally, I would cower and apologize under their glares, whether I was guilty or not. However, I've changed, so I proudly held up the key with the string still attached. Oh, a device to keep yourself from dropping it. A commendable precaution. Genji-sama's face was as expressionless as ever. However, those were unmistakably words of praise. That's right. You won't drop them anymore. After all, you have your ritual now. That's right. I nodded proudly, a huge smile on my face. The proud experience of that day, of that moment, would be engraved into an unforgettable page in the memory of my young life. So, whose key did Genji find? Huh? There was only one servant who hadn't raised their key. She muttered, "It has to be Yasu's key, not mine," and fished in her pocket. Her face went pale. You mustn't slack off, even when doing your everyday tasks. But everyone makes mistakes from time to time. I will not press the point, but blaming your teammate instead of reflecting on your own actions is not something I would consider praiseworthy. My apologies. The older servant turned red and hung her head. Behind her, though no one else could see it, was the witch. My friend will not make the same mistake again. After all, even though I've always got my eyes on this kid, I can never find a chance to try anything. But it's a shame. If this girl here has lost her key, I should have tried pranking her long ago. Please don't prank people other than me. Huh? Did you say something? No, nothing. I tried not to feel vindictive, but after being called dull-witted for so long, I was finally able to hold my head up high. On that day, for the first time, I truly felt as though I've gotten used to life as a servant of the Ushimiya family. When people compliment you, it feels like they've acknowledged you. It's very important. People can't grow without it. And what happens when people grow? First, it becomes possible for them to find some leeway. Jobs that used to make them scared, that make them worry about whether they were doing things the right way or not, can then be carried out with confidence. That's right. Once things become easy, that gives you some latitude. And what happens next? It gives you a chance to enjoy your time more. As Genji might say, it gives you time to relax your mind. If you're tense all the time, that just wears you out. It's good to take it easy for a bit if you can. You mean you learn so much you can start slacking off on the job? It sounds bad when you put it that way. However, there's nothing wrong with cleverly carrying out your task quickly and using your free time to enjoy yourself. Times like that are what enriches a human's life. Come to think of it, Goda plays crosswords a lot between jobs. He also invents dishes with the leftover ingredients. Playing a bit and refreshing yourself can also be good for your efficiency. You might say that inventing dishes combines work and play. Even Genji slacks off when no one's looking. He'll watch TV or swipe some of his master's drink, and he reads complicated books. Even Genji! In short, it's all about cleverly using the gaps between jobs to play. If it goes too far, it can turn to laziness. However, people only become mature when they learn to balance work with pleasure. Simply put, if all you care about is work all the time, you're not fully mature. So that kid learned how to play between jobs. It's hard to imagine that overly serious kid slacking off at work. It started with learning how to interact with people. That kid formed a relationship with Kumasawa, the person who was always kind, and started borrowing books from her and talking together about them. Even I had friends at school, but because of my work, there was no chance to deepen our friendship. Jessica was always kind and modest, but there was Natsui's stern order to think of, so we couldn't play together very much. So at the time, Kumasawa, the one who was always kind as a mother to me, was the person I felt closest to. Kumasawa was old enough to have grandchildren. They couldn't exactly run around and play together. You developed an interest in Kumasawa's hobby. And what's Kumasawa's hobby? Books. It might be hard to believe, but Kumasawa was a huge mystery novel fan. So the kid wanted to find out what sort of books they were and started reading them. That's right. The nice thing about mystery novels is you can talk about them while you read them. Even Kumasawa, who already knew the answer, must have enjoyed listening in and hearing what sorts of theories a young intellect could create. True, I like hearing your guys' theories when we play through mystery games that I've already played before, and ones that I haven't. Of course, I didn't start right away with the complicated books Kumasawa-san read. First, I asked for her recommendations and got books from the school library. I would even bring them into the servant room and read a bit during every break. Every time a new theory popped into my head, I told Kumasawa-san about it, and she, who already knew the answer, would nod at my theory and grin. That was a lot of fun for me. Are you going to take a bath? Bath time's almost over. Yeah, just a bit more. Another one of the Indian figures just disappeared. You've become a total mystery nut. If you get too excited reading, you won't be able to sleep again. According to Kumasawa-san, the culprit has already appeared, but I don't have a clue who it is. What's the book called? It's by Agatha Christie, and Then There Were None. It's really interesting, almost like it's a crime happening on Rokunjima, which, as you know, episode 1 of Umineko takes a lot of inspiration from And Then There Was None. It's a really famous mystery novel, isn't it? Wasn't that one a perfect crime, at least until the culprit confesses to the truth in a message bottle at the end? An incredible book. Shh! Shh! I'm enjoying myself, so don't spoil me. Go take a bath now, I'll go by myself later. Okay, okay. See you later then. Don't forget to take a bath, okay? Holding a change of clothes, Shannon smiled amusedly as she left the room. I probably won't be able to read the whole thing tonight. Even though I know that, I just keep turning the pages, unable to find a good place to stop. My new joy, the mystery genre, the mental game of thinking and theorizing, and also talking about it with Kumasawa-san. All of that left me enraptured. It would seem you've become a complete bookworm. Well, if you do stay up and get sleepy, then that just makes my job easier. We can't have that. I better find a place to stop soon. Hey Celeste, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. In ancient times when I was born, pleasures such as mystery novels didn't exist. I've been reading over your shoulder, and this truly is a captivating read. Vito, who do you think the culprit is? And then there were none? Yeah. Who's this Owen, I wonder? The culprit who lured the victims to the island, of course. There are no more than 10 people on this island, and Owen doesn't exist. Someone must have stranded them on the island and waited somewhere far away for them to die of starvation. No, that's not right. He or she is on the island. They're one of the 10 people. I just don't know who. How do you know that there are only 10 people on the island? That's just how it is. Since if you doubt that, you're stuck, or it's just a standard rule of the mystery genre, or... The culprit owns the island, correct? They may be hiding in some hidden room. Or perhaps they're like me. They may be a 1,000-year-old witch. No. If they went to such lengths to kill a mere 10 people, they couldn't be 1,000 years old. 495 years old at best, I'd say. Closed rooms do appear a lot in the mystery novels, and books often use the phrase, "It could only conceivably have been done with magic." And here I am with a witch right before my eyes. It's a complicated feeling. Very entertaining, these closed-room murders. Once you read the answer, it becomes a tale of humans or a mystery novel, but if you take out the part that reveals the answer, it becomes a tale of witches or a fantasy novel. Hey MM, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for stopping by. That's an interesting way to look at it. So there's only a tiny difference between human novels and fantasy novels. If a trick exists, it becomes a human novel. If there isn't one, it's a witch's novel. Simply take out the last few pages of the book you're reading, and you might think of Lady Owen as a witch on the same level as myself. That might be surprisingly wise coming from you. So the culprit of an answerless detective novel is a witch. All the dark places in the world belong to us witches, so I could reign as the culprit for all detective novels across the world. Except if you reason it outright and find the true answer, the witch is done for. These detective novels can be quite intriguing, it seems. It looks to be a truly entertaining thinking game. That's right. This is a thinking game. You fight against the book, make a theory, and then compete against friends who also have read the book. Perhaps, but it's also a fight between humans and witches. Will you allow for or deny the magic of my closed-room murders? Call it a chess match of mystery. Hey Timo, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by. So it isn't a book I'm reading, but a challenge against you. Indeed. As Shannon said a short while ago, this story apparently has the truth revealed by a message bottle at the end. So if you can't expose the truth of the tale before that point, you lose. After all, the message bottle just happened to drift somewhere that could be seen. If it got smashed and sank before anyone saw it, this would be a perfect crime. In other words, a witch's crime that's impossible for humans. That's a fun way to look at it. A fight between me and the witch. Yeah. I really like thinking of it that way. Starting now and until you finish reading, I am Lady Owen, the 495-year-old witch. Can you see through my deserted island murder tricks? I do have one theory. You want to play with me, don't you? I've been reading books so much you've gotten lonely. That too. Incidentally, the game Bito and I played around and then there were none ended with my defeat. In the end, I wasn't able to build a satisfying theory, and I had to learn the truth from the message bottle. Luckily, it did manage to drift into human hands. If it had sunk to the bottom of the ocean as Bito suggested, I would have had no way of knowing the truth. In other words, I was forced to acknowledge Owen as a witch. Mystery. I once thought it was just a genre for novels. To think it could also so easily become a fight between witches and humans, truth and fantasy. I was instantly enraptured by this new game. As the months passed by, I read through all the mystery novels in the school library. I started to read mystery novels for adults. I discussed them with Kumasawa. I discussed them with Shannon. I played my game of theory chess, the fight between witches and the truth. Those days were so much fun. Oh, I am one, yet many. Here's to the fun game of the mind that enraptured me. So that's really interesting, because again, it builds up the progression from episode 1 of Umineko and the setup to the way that all the other games worked in terms of the battles. It's an interesting take on it. And I guess this is showing you, I mean, not I guess, I know this is the way they're showing you how Beatrice sees it. Chapter 4, New Days. The months and years slid by. In my new, more colorful life, I smiled at the spring sunshine peeking through the trees, gazed up the column of summer clouds, and enjoyed the piles of fallen leaves in autumn, and played in the winter snow the few times it did fall. As these days passed one after another, there was a considerable change to my environment. Which character I would get along with best in Umineko? I mean, probably Will. I really like Will, but also because I think I relate to him in a way. He's also one of the few characters that is not an asshole. Everyone, I mean, all the other characters are very interesting and complex characters because they have moments where you like them and then moments where you hate them. They have moments where they're assholes and the moments where they're nice, so it's like, they're kind of more realistic that way, but Will kind of exists outside of that because of his role, but I like Will. He's pretty cool. The servants coming from the Fukuin house had switched. There weren't specific grades like in school, so there was no rule saying how long a servant could work before quitting. Each servant made their own decision about when they would graduate from Rokonjima. Some of those who couldn't stand the environment would quit in as little as 3 days. After all, life on Rokonjima was strict. It was also strict in the Fukuin house, of course, but there were a lot of Rokonjima-only rules, and Natsui, the one who supervised the servants, was also very authoritarian. I mean, again, I find it so hard to, not hard to believe, but I guess, like, the fact they have so many servants, and they always have so much work to do, but they're just cleaning the same mansion over and over again. I know it's a huge mansion, with a lot of stuff to do, but the way they make it sound, I think they're obviously embellishing it to make it sound a little bit more strict, because that's what the image of it is supposed to be, but... And especially since only, like, 3 people live in the mansion, plus... Oh no, I guess 4 people if you count. Kinzo, Kraus, Natsui, and Jessica, and then everyone else is a servant, so... It was probably easy to feel trapped. That trapped feeling and the money sat on opposite sides of the scale that they used to decide the time of their graduation. And sometimes someone from the Ushimiya family would use their influence to secure someone a new job, encouraging them to spread their wings and start a new life. The cycle usually lasted 2 or 3 years. No one decided this, but it was one of the goals most servants shot for. An unspoken rule. However, I was an exception to that rule. I continued to go to school on Nijima while still living as a servant. That year, all the Fukuin house servants quit at once. It wasn't at all rare for friends to quit at the same time as each other. All of my fellow servants from the Fukuin house graduated from the island at once, leaving only me behind. Of course, I wasn't on particularly good terms with them. On the contrary, it was annoying to be treated like a kid and called Yasu all the time. Though some new servants had come after me, the older ones had already gotten them believing that Yasu loses things all the time, so it wasn't really any more pleasant to have new comrades. Those unpleasant older servants, as well as the ones who started at the same time or after I did, all quit at once. Ushimiya family made no effort to stop them from leaving. Adult servants were easier to handle in the first place. The Fukuin house servants were only accepted so they could be trained. And so all the servants besides me left, and no one tried to stop them. Later, Yasu. Don't go losing stuff again. I don't lose things anymore. Huh. Later. Make sure you listen to what Madam says. Don't you go troubling the next group of servants. You know, it's still a mystery. Why was Yasu recommended for this job? It's even more surprising Madam let Yasu stay this long. It must have taken some guts not to give up and run away. Keep it up, Yasu. I hate being called Yasu. At the very end, I finally said the one thing I've always wanted to say to them. However, they basically ignored me and just picked up their things and left. I guess you never got a chance to become friends with them. I didn't even want to. Yeah, I'm sure they feel the same way, so you're even. Let's just forget about those people. They no longer have anything to do with us. So, there's no reason to think about them. Yeah, you're right. I felt just a bit disappointed. I never got the chance to prove to them I could take care of myself. It's hard for people to throw off their first impressions. That's just how it is. No matter how wonderfully you grow, those people would have probably always called you Yasu and made fun of you. There's no reason for you to want their admiration. Yes. Yeah, you're right, Shannon. I'll completely forget about those people. Good. You have two great friends, Kumasawa-san and me. And if you want to prove that you can take care of yourself, prove it to the new servants who are coming. Shannon was exactly right. Ever since that day when I held the key with the spiderweb charm up high, I'd regained my confidence and pride. I am now the most experienced Fukuin servant. The new servants who come will still probably be older than me, but I need to teach them the ropes as the most experienced servant. Genji-sama even told me to lead the newer servants as a senpai. Okay, I'll give it my all. That's the right attitude. Let's give it our all together. Yeah. My name is Asni. Pleased to meet you. My name is Belne. Pleased to meet you. The newly arrived servants looked a bit superficial. When I first joined the Ushime family, I was incredibly nervous. However, I couldn't see any trace of that nervousness on these girls. That's right. Usually kids with good grades and behavior were selected. How were they selected? Who did it? The board of directors came and interviewed them, and they were judged on other things like their everyday conduct. So, as long as they acted like good kids and for the adults, they could pass. Well, there were times that they passed because the adults watching them decided they would do fine. All the children who came from the Fukuin house were highly individualistic. They polished that attitude while they worked as servants, and eventually grew to be servants who would not shame the Ushime family. However, encouraging this behavior was the role of the more experienced servants. Since I was the only one with experience, it was my responsibility to guide them. What were the new kids like? They were the elite, of course, of irreproachable conduct. I think they were like that when Madame and Genji-sama were around. However, when their superiors weren't around, well, they didn't take things quite as seriously. Asni-san, please make sure you put your tools on the cart when you're done using them. Huh? Sure, sorry. I also have to be alert as a more experienced servant. And Belne-san, you shouldn't set your key down in a place like that. You'll lose it. I'm not gonna lose it. I'd never forget where I put things. When I first arrived here, the other servants would often tell me off just as I had done. They would probably have been mean and obnoxious about it. I hated that, so I tried to be more gentle when admonishing them, but they wouldn't take me seriously. Listen up. You know there's a witch living in the mansion, don't you? Oh, Beatrice! Yeah, that sounded just like him. Don't tell me you believe in that too, Shannon-chan. Yeah, she really exists. If you leave things lying around, the witch will prank you and hide them. It's true. I've gotten in trouble many times because of it. A witch hiding things? That's totally impossible. After all, there's no way witches could exist. There's no way they could exist. Witches. I thought they were just pranks. No, it was just easier to think of it that way. Do you think the witch Beatrice actually existed? I don't believe it. I don't know if it was Beatrice. I do think that something inhuman really did exist in that mansion. Do you think there's a chance this non-human thing was Beatrice? Ridiculous. I wish I could say it was ridiculous. That must have been a prank of Yasu's. No, not a prank. Revenge. I did think that at first, but... Did something happen that couldn't be explained away as a prank? It was persistent and creepy. What kinds of things happened specifically? Things I set down would disappear as soon as I looked away for a second. Didn't Yasu just hide them? I thought so at first. It was only natural to think that. But I started getting this feeling something wasn't right. I kept thinking, could such a timid kid really get away with something so obnoxious? Can you tell us what happened? When my keyring disappeared, it was easy to think Yasu snatched it when I wasn't looking. When a single key disappeared off my keyring and reappeared somewhere completely different, I couldn't think of it that way. Maybe Yasu just pulled that one key off when you weren't looking. Is that even possible, practically speaking? Hiding the whole ring is one thing, but if you really think about it, taking a single key off the keyring isn't that easy. The keys would clatter together. I was standing right next to them, just facing the other way, get it? If you took your time removing a key when I was that close, even an idiot like me would have noticed. But a single key just vanished without a sound. At that moment, I finally realized this wasn't Yasu trying to get back at me. It was something worse. And where did you find this disappearing key? It was... in my locker. Well, you could be pretty absent-minded, Belne. Are you sure you didn't just take that key off and put it in your locker? Why would I take the key off the ring? Have you ever taken a key off or put a key on your key ring, Asni? I tried doing it myself. It's really stiff. I'd never go to all the trouble. There'd be no point. Am I a sleepwalker or something? How can I not remember something I've done? I may be stupid, but I'm not that stupid. I don't forget about things I do that easily. And anyway, I know I had my key with me when I entered the room. Otherwise, how could I have unlocked the door? Okay then. Yasu, careful not to make any sound, slip the key off and hid it in your locker. That has to be it. That's what I thought at first. I jumped at Yasu telling that kid not to mess with me, but even as I said it, I realized, isn't there something completely wrong here? After all, on that day, we were cleaning that room with Yasu the whole time, right? There wouldn't have been time for Yasu to noisily remove a key. It was impossible for Yasu. In fact, it should have been impossible for anyone. Maybe the ring was missing a master key when you got it. I already told you! The key really was there in the beginning. I was the one who unlocked that room, so it must have been there. And then I went to the room. I'm stupid, and since I hate having the keys clattering around, I placed the ring on the bed. Then when we finished the cleaning, I picked up the ring, tried to lock the door, and it was gone. I may have turned my back on the ring, but it was right next to me. So if someone tried to pull a prank by removing just one key, I'd have heard it clinking. And yet just the key for that room vanished and appeared in my locker. So okay, let's say that Yasu managed to sneak it away. It's easier to think of it that way. But still, how could Yasu have put it in my locker? Yasu and I were together the whole time, right? When I started yelling about it being gone and ran all over the place looking for it, Yasu was with me until the moment I found it in my locker, get it? I'm telling you, it's impossible! Even as I jumped at Yasu, I began to feel it. I mean, Yasu's eyes seemed to be saying it silently. According to Yasu, the reason things used to go missing all the time wasn't because Yasu was forgetful, as everyone said, but actually, it was because impossible things would suddenly happen, just like they had to me. And... Yasu was with you the whole time, so there's no chance for Yasu to put the key in the locker. Did other strange things like that happen? Yeah, they did. Afterwards, other things happened, and not just things disappearing, over and over. Of course, I started getting nervous and made sure not to put things down in places like that, but that didn't help. At first, I was angry at Yasu, but at some point I began to realize I was mistaken. One time, a key even disappeared from a ring I left in my pocket. Then I realized, these weren't Yasu's pranks. The same thing happened to Yasu was now happening to me. Calm down a bit. I think some of those were Yasu's fault, and the others were just you being clumsy. It's true the mansion's always dark and eerie, and it does feel like the sort of place you'd find a curse. I'm sure that's what made you scared like that. You saw it too, didn't you? Remember that vanishing white shadow we saw in the VIP room that rainy day? Yes, I saw it. But couldn't that have just been Madame or Milady wearing something white? What do you mean something white? Have you ever seen either of them wearing something like that? And besides, that VIP room is always locked. They don't have keys to it. That had to have been some kind of ghost. No, the silhouette of the witch. So basically, Belne started acting like this, totally scared. I've got more street smarts than her, but the more scared she was, the more I thought the witches were stupid and couldn't exist. Still, I had to be careful about what I said. I mean, I realized that this wasn't something I should talk about carelessly. All ghost stories and curses sound stupid to outsiders, but to the people who believe in them, it's absolutely not a joking matter. It really was no joke. Azumi didn't believe a word of what I said, so I eventually stopped telling her about it and confessed to Yasu instead. I told Yasu, I thought you were the culprit, but it couldn't have been you. I said that something strange was happening to me. And what was that kid's answer? Yasu said the same thing had happened many times already, but no one believed any of it. In the first place, the older servants always made fun of Yasu, but that kid clearly wasn't as clumsy or stupid as they said. I hated having a younger person tell me what to do, so I always resisted, but Yasu always got our work done flawlessly. I've always thought it strange that people made fun of Yasu for losing things. I was sure then, it existed. Some strange and human thing existed in this mansion. And that thing was the witch Beatrice. That's what you want to call it, I'll believe it. Anyway, something that couldn't be explained away by human actions definitely existed there. People who didn't understand kept calling Yasu and me forgetful. They didn't get it. They just didn't get it. Still, it did freak you out for a while, but then you got a lot better. After that, all the fuss about you losing things went away, right? So it must have been your imagination all the time. You're wrong! I talked to Yasu, to Shannon, and Kumasawa-san and others about it, and they said the witch really did exist. The old servants all made sure to respect her. They said I'd be cursed because I've stupidly gone around saying Beatrice didn't exist. So I reformed! Yasu taught me how to give offerings to the doll in the VIP room. I asked Genji-sama for permission and prayed at the shrine by the sea. And then it all stopped all at once. You were okay, Azumi, since you stopped making fun of the witch partway through. But if you're cluelessly gone on making fun of her, you'd surely have been cursed next. Yes, I guarantee it, you definitely would have been cursed. I guess. Even I was creeped out by you two. I never said it out loud, but... You just don't get it! You really don't. So I made sure to teach all the newer servants as well. A witch called Beatrice-sama lives at this mansion. If you make fun of her, you really will be cursed. Belne. When things disappeared and that was a sign the witch was close by and watching us. If you said it was a prank or that witches couldn't exist, you'd be cursed even more. It was like that for both Yasu and me. When the key disappeared, that was a sign the witch had appeared. Hey Lork, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Hey Blue Moss, welcome. Yeah, Yasu really embodied gaslight gatekeep girl boss. Belne-san carelessly tossed her keyring on the bed again, humming as she started to clean. No matter how much I warn her, she doesn't change her ways. She's always making fun of me and calling me Yasu, so she won't listen to what I tell her. Why won't she listen to what I say? You mustn't leave things lying carelessly about. If you lower your guard, the witch will prank you. Look at that delicious keyring. Stop it, please. That's Belne-san's key. Keep your pranking to me alone. Let the others be. With how cautious you've grown, you're no fun anymore. Just kidding. Still, how unpleasant these people are refusing to listen to my friend's kindly advice. Any insult to my friend I take as an insult to myself. Are you planning to steal Belne-san's key? Please don't do it. She'll think I hid it again. She thinks my magic is naught but the scheme of a child like you. Very well then. Let's just show her something that would be impossible for a human. Let's show her my magic. Foolish Belne. I'll make you regret not listening to my friend's advice. This flimsy body is not enough. I'm borrowing yours. It's been too long since I've shown you real magic. Let my body return to the land of the living for just a moment. Huh? Ah! A shiver ran up my whole body like an electric shock. From that moment onwards, I couldn't move any part of my body by my own will. Like a moment of shock after a blackout, I could do nothing but accept the fact I had lost control over my body. All the cells throughout my body felt tingly. It felt as though my body had been transformed into someone else's. I realized that the witch Beatrice was using my body as a vessel to revive for a short period of time. Hey Ryugin, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Very nice. That ticklish feeling of the air on my skin, having a body, is simply wonderful. What are you trying to do? Please don't do anything mean. This time, everything went backwards. My words were spoken inside my heart, and the witch's voice was coming out of my mouth. Fear not, I'll give you your body back soon enough. I just need to teach her a lesson with a little prank. I won't do anything foolish that might earn you her suspicion. Come, try and remember. Where have you been sleeping? Everything went completely white, and my mind stopped. Once again, that tingling sensation slid up my body. I could feel it all gather in the fingers of both my hands and come out the tips of my fingers. It was an unfathomable, indescribable, unknown sensation. My head went blank and I couldn't think at all. I could do nothing but abandon my soul to the sensation. I finally understood. This is what it's like to use magic. Come, try to remember. Where have you been sleeping? My finger was moved like a puppet's and danced around as though I was conducting music. I never knew that having my body move without my control could be so exciting. When Bito lifted my finger as if a string was attached to it, the key ring lying on the bed stood on end. Belna-san didn't notice. Neither did Asuna-san. They were fully occupied by their happy chat as they cleaned the room. I doubt that either of them would have dreamed that a witch was right behind them, readying herself to use magic. They probably couldn't even imagine the key ring doing a little dance right behind their backs. It was like a cartoon fairy tale I'd seen as a kid. The happy way the keys danced and spun made it look as though they had a will of their own. I could feel the fun of making those keys dance with my fingers wash over me. Yes, this is pleasure. As I powerlessly watched the witch control me, I couldn't help but surrender myself to this new joy called magic. Whoops, that won't do. If the whole ring disappears, my friend will be suspected again. All we need... Yes, we just need the key to this room to disappear. Ito controlled my fingers, controlling the magic, and thereby controlling the keys. The key ring slumped down on the bed, and then just the mansion's master key stood up on end. Well now, what shall I do with this? Merely erasing it would be quite boring. So... why don't I throw it into her locker? That will give my friend who's been working here with her the whole time a splendid alibi. Come, try, remember. Where have you been sleeping? Yes, it was a warm, dark place. The inside of Belna's locker. When Bito snapped her fingers, the key burst and became a gold butterfly. A gold butterfly. I see. It's gold because she's the golden witch who gave the master all of his gold. And butterflies are scared of spiderwebs. So it's a gold butterfly. The minions of the witch Beatrice are gold butterflies. After flitting into the air, it burst into a shower of gold sparks and disappeared. And then the vanished key was in Belna-san's locker. Though it was far away in a changing room locker, I could tell exactly how it happened. It wasn't by sight or by touch. It was by some other sense inside my heart, which couldn't be explained by the five senses. A completely new sensation I never felt before. It was a completely alien concept called magic. A completely unknown pleasure that left me in a trance. That's enough, my friend. I'll give this body back to you. Ugh. Felt as though I'd been spinning through space until gravity suddenly came back and threw me to the ground. Like when you're having a great dream, but you wake up suddenly, and all you remember about the dream was that it was fun. The sort of lonely feeling. Though Bito had been born in my body, it was my own body that used magic. I could still feel that sensation in my hands. The keyring over there had danced along with the movements of my fingers. No, that's not quite right. The keyring and my fingers had danced together. That fun, that excitement, still tingled slightly in my hands. Whoops, that was close. Saying this, Belna-san suddenly turned around and picked up the keyring she had thrown down on the bed. She must have realized I was staring at it. Almost had Yasu complain I shouldn't leave keys lying around like this. I'd never put something down and forget about it. With a grin, she put the key back into her pocket. However, she still hadn't noticed. She probably couldn't even imagine that just a single key had vanished while her back was turned for a second. It's not easy for a human to do things like that. But with magic, with just a little dance of the keys and a butterfly popping, it had disappeared. Okay, fingertip inspection. Bed, okay. Curtains, okay. Tools, okay. And keys too. See? Nothing wrong, right? Yes, that's good. Then let's go on to the next room. Belna-san, could you lock up this room for me? Sure. Did Belna-san's key really disappear by magic? Was that fun magic just a daydream I had? I was so scared of that being true that I tested it. Huh? What's wrong? Why are you taking so long? Huh? 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 Wait, are you kidding me? What's wrong? It's not this one, and it isn't this one. Huh? What the? What is it? Do you want me to lock it? I don't get it. What's going on? My master key's gone. Just my master key is gone. Why? This ring's so stiff, there's no way it'd come off. I could faintly feel that tingling sensation run across my fingers again. That night, as I gazed at the ceiling from the bed in my dorm room, I looked at my hands. I couldn't sleep. That excitement from the time those keys danced was still in my fingertips. Is this how witches always feel? I have a friend who's a witch called Beatrice. She always used to play pranks on me with her strange magic. Because I saw this all the time, I thought I knew what magic was. But today, she possessed my body and used magic with it. The sensation of magic that I finally felt at that time still held my heart entranced. It was a completely unknown pleasure. After all, by moving my fingertips, I could make the key dance as I wished. It was a strange miracle of magic, something humans could not do. I still couldn't let go of that excitement. Shannon, are you awake? What is it? Shannon was still awake. Shannon is always early to bed, early to rise. By getting used to bed early, all her weariness disappears by the next day. She lives a model life, one that all servants should respect and admire. If I want to become a loved, respected servant like Shannon, I'll need to act that way too. However, I wasn't confident I could do that anymore. I guess I can't become like you after all. What do you mean? This is a bit abrupt? You were my ideal. Always. Yeah. Everyone in the Fukuin house loves you and is kind to you. Since you always play with me, you're the only friend I've ever had. And you're also a wonderful servant who can carry out any task in the Ushimiya mansion, both flawlessly and gracefully. You are the target I long to reach. That's what you were to me. Yeah, let's give it our all together. As they say, perseverance prevails. Everyone will grow to acknowledge you more and more. So let's aim to become wonderful servants together. I'm gonna stop being a servant. Huh? Instead of a servant, I'd rather be a witch. What do you mean by witch? I did, and still do, wish I could be a servant loved and relied upon by everybody. But right now, I want to be a witch. Even more. Well, that's, huh? Shannon was confused. It was hardly surprising. All this about quitting as a servant was at least understandable. But she didn't know how to answer after hearing that her roommate wanted to become a witch. A witch. Beatrice. You see, today Beatrice possessed me and used my body to do magic. That unknown world felt so thrilling. It was much more thrilling when I learned that I'd been selected as an Ushimiya family servant. It was like learning about a new world. As though I'd been living in a world of darkness all my life, and thought I knew what the world was like. Then finally learned what light was and saw the world for the first time. It was joy, excitement. Vito had only used my fingers, made a keyring dance, and turned a key into a butterfly before hiding it in a locker. But I'd understood it with my body. If I'd moved my fingers a different way, the ring could have flown into the air instead of just dancing. And I could have turned it into a scurrying lizard instead of a butterfly. I could have done anything. True, Beatrice's magical power was still weak. It all happened in this little world behind the backs of the servants, who were filled with anti-magic toxin. However, inside that tiny short-lived window, I could do anything at all. Vito just happened to settle on making them dance and turning the key into a butterfly. But if she wanted to, she could have done anything else. The endless sensation of that free, unrestricted power, I could still feel it in my fingertips. Could it be that, along with that sensation, a fragment of that magical power might also remain? I can tell. It's still there. There's still just a bit of it there along with that sensation. I can do it. I can still do it. Ah! A single spot of golden light suddenly lit up the dark room. It was right between my clasped hands. When I slowly opened them, I could see a single dot that sparkled gold. What is... Shannon didn't know what the light meant. How could light appear from the palm of my hands? Yet, even with this miracle right in front of her, she couldn't understand what it was. She just sat there with her mouth open in disbelief. However, to me, this was just the return of that bit of sensation in my fingertips. The golden dot spread out and became a small gold butterfly. It flapped its wings and scattered gold sparks about like a cartoon fairy. To Shannon, it probably just looked as though a gold butterfly was flapping its wings. Of course, that alone was a miracle she could hardly grasp. But to me, it was like a remote control plane in the shape of a butterfly. I could control that gold butterfly however I wanted, not clumsily with threads. I could make it flap, dance, play through the air as I wished. I was taking a walk through the air as that little butterfly. The golden glint of it pierced the darkness of the small room as it danced about freely. It was an entrancing pleasure. However, that sensation in my fingers began to weaken. I could tell that a few magic butterfly scales left in my fingers were going away. Finally, the gold butterfly flashed and turned to dust like a firework run out of juice, falling down and disappearing without a trace. What on earth just happened? This is magic. It's really fun. Magic. Yeah, magic. There was still some left in my fingers, so I was able to use it. But if I became a real witch, I'll be able to use it whenever and however I want to do anything. Now that I learned how fun this can be, I don't want to go back to being human. Being a servant is just too boring. So, I'm going to become a witch. Become a witch? Wait! I've already made my decision, Shannon. It's been fun. I'll give you this room. You can use it by yourself. Later. Goodbye. Wait! As Shannon called out repeatedly for me to wait, a massive planetarium swallowed me up. In the sea of the pitch-black starry sky, I was alone. We are alone. I'm done acting the part of the servant. I'm going to modify this world. Indeed. Understood. In that case, what will you do? Being a wonderful servant like Shannon wouldn't be bad. But now I know how fun it is to be a witch. That feels like a boring dream. I can't go back anymore. What will happen to Shannon? Shannon could just be Shannon and stay as a respected servant. She'll stay the same. But from now on, it won't be the two of us together, but her alone. Very well's are sudden, is that not just the phrase? Very well. Being fickle makes life more entertaining. And what of you? I want to become a witch. I want to become Vito. But I'm already Beatrice. You'll still be a witch, and my friend. I'm modifying the world so that Vito is me. So I'll be a witch who is a friend of Beatrice. Pretty much. So from now on, you're a different witch. I understand. Then what will be my new name? I'll put that on hold until I can think of one. You'll be nameless for a while. Sorry about the trouble. Not at all, not at all. This is my precious name we're talking about. You'd better take your time and think carefully about it. You've been Beatrice's friend since she was young, and couldn't use magic yet. When we first met each other, you'd always hide my things and make fun of me. I see. And when Beatrice finally learns the ways of magic, I become a friend on equal footing with her. Perhaps that would make me sort of like a big sister to you. Typical original character creation, leaving the name for last. I was actually talking to my friend about this the other day, because I'm in the process of finalizing some designs for some new characters, and I was talking to my friend about their characters, because they're also building a story, and I was like, they showed me a new character of theirs, and I was like, oh, what's their name? And they're like, I haven't thought of it yet, and I'm like, yeah. I usually leave the name for last, too. Because I usually overthink it, too. I usually need to have like a lot of reasons behind a name and like symbolism, and it sounds good and all that stuff, so it takes a lot of time. Yeah, that sounds nice. What are we gonna do about how we talk? Beatrice's voice is that of a woman of high station. Shall I give that to you as well? Yeah, I'll inherit the way she talks. Indeed, I comprehend. Or perhaps I shouldn't say it like that. I'll need to find a good way to sound like Beatrice's big sister, like witch friend. Yeah. Or should it be... Indeed. Now there's a nice dignified voice. Okay, then how about... No, wait. Then what of my appearance? Good point. I've got a sort of blood red witch look. Why not choose a different color for yourself? When Beatrice wanders the mansion at night, she's often seen dressed in white. Yes, I suppose ghosts are classically white. A witch in a white dress. Let's try putting it all together. I need a different look than the witch in the demon red dress. A white, noble witch. Unlike the time with the red witch, I'm thinking about my own look now. So I'd like to make it beautiful and cute if I can. Yasu's making their own VTuber, that's what's happening. A white dress, a noble look, like one of noble blood, but with a dark, sarcastic streak. No, she's like a tomboy princess, so her voice is a mix of formality and rudeness. Then the dress should be the exact opposite to make a nice contrast. Then what of this form? Is that the form of the new Beatrice? How beautiful. Just like a noble princess. I've taken a liking to this form. This will be quite satisfactory. Not bad. You look great, Bito. I like it. I truly do like this form. Now, if you can keep this up and give me a wonderful name, that'd be great. If I have to go around nameless for too long, I'll get all sulky. Fear not. I shall find you a splendid name. But first, there's something I must consider. What shall be the form of my magic? Hiding objects and transporting them instantaneously is your theme, so I must think of my own particular theme of magic. When I use magic, gold butterflies will flit about. I'm not backing down on that part. Perfect! That really would make you a golden witch. Then the weakness, such as spiderwebs and the sacred mirror in the shrine, will also go to you. Indeed. Even an all-powerful witch needs a few small weaknesses to keep things interesting. Then let us do it like so. If I touch a spiderweb, it will burn me. Silently, a silvery spiderweb dropped down vertically. Bito, now in her new form, lightly touched the silver spiderweb that trailed out behind it. As she did, there was a faint sound of flesh burning, and a thin burn was left across her fingers. Beatrice can't stand spiderwebs. That was one of the weaknesses of the evil spirits Kumasawa-san spoke of. Since the witch Beatrice had revived thanks to the power of those evil spirits, she also inherited their weaknesses. Therefore, sacred mirrors are another one of my weaknesses. However, that sacred mirror in the shrine isn't too likely to appear in front of me often. That's not so fun. Then, while mirrors with sacred power will obviously be a weakness, let us make mirrors themselves a weakness too. You often hear that mirrors have magical powers. Isn't that nice? Sounds just like a witch. If I look at a mirror, it feels as though my magical power is being sucked out, so I'll try to avoid them. Indeed, that could be quite amusing. If I really think about it, I'm bad with mirrors whether I make a rule or not. No matter who I want or strive to be, the only face I'll ever show in a mirror is the heartlessly pathetic and realistic face of Yasu. Mirrors which always force me to face my shabby reality are something I always want to avoid. That's right. I hate mirrors. I don't want to see my pitiful self. You don't need to decide everything at once. It's fun to build up a world one bit at a time. True. I understand. I shall enjoy life as a witch as I slowly expand my world. That tiny dark room is no place for you to sleep now. Indeed. I am the Golden Witch. I am the ruler of Rokujima's night, and the nighttime mansion belongs to me. That is where I should make my home, is it not? A room for Beatrice? Huh, isn't it obvious? Yeah, that's right. That wonderful room on the second floor of the mansion. The VIP room of the witch just has to be Beatrice's room. Oh, that's right. From this evening forward, that room in the nighttime mansion shall be my dwelling place. Why didn't I think of that myself? Then let's go, Bito. If we're going to drink tea together, we'll need a much better room than that cramped one. Indeed. That room is too crude for entertaining friends and serving tea. We shall change rooms. Let us go, my friend. So this is goodbye to Shannon. When I looked at my feet, I could see my own dorm room far beneath me. I could see Shannon, who had dashed up to the bed I lay on, and had been saying wait at the moment time froze. She was as rigid as a doll. Looking down at it from this height, it really did look like a small dollhouse. So long, Shannon. The days I spent as a human with you as a goal and a constant comfort were truly fun. If I had never learned the joys of magic and awakened as a witch, everything would doubtlessly have remained as it was. I was your only close friend too, wasn't I? Please forgive me for erasing that friend so suddenly. As a parting gift, I will erase me from your world. Starting now, this will not be a two-person room. It will be a single-person room with just you in it. I hope you continue to strive for your ideal and try to become a kind, reliable servant loved by everyone. Yasu, the stupid, clumsy servant who lost things all the time, doesn't exist anymore. So long, Shannon. When I mature as the witch Beatrice and stride through the nighttime mansion where I will, I may bump into you as you do your nighttime rounds. However, when I meet you again, it will not be a reunion. It will be our first meeting. After all, though you have heard the rumors of the witch Beatrice, you have never met her. So long, Shannon. Let us meet again sometime and spin up some fun tale. Wait! Wait. What was I doing? Was I talking in my sleep? Apparently I had gotten out of bed, stretched my hand out towards it, and said wait. This isn't the first time I've woken up to find myself saying something strange, but I don't remember ever waking up to find myself out of bed and standing up. Could this be what they call sleepwalking? Hey, Cassiopeia! Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for following me and being a froggy friend. Welcome, welcome. Am I just tired? Gotta sleep. Gotta get back to sleep. I turned around to face my bed. Huh? My bed wasn't there. There was no bed in this room except the one I'd just turned my back on. If I'm the only person in this room, and the only bed is the one behind me, that must mean it's my bed. That feels wrong for some reason. The bed sheets are all disarranged, as though someone had slipped out of them. Who did? This is a single-person room with me in it, right? So that there is my bed, and the traces of someone crawling out means I was just sleeping there until a second ago? But for some reason, that bed... Doesn't feel like my bed. However, though all the other kids shared rooms, I, Shannon, was given a single-person room. So there's only one bed. And it must be mine. Am I just tired? I wonder. I might just be half asleep. School starts early tomorrow morning. And when school ends, I want to go to the mansion, help out with some work, and talk to Kumasawa-san about the mystery novel I just read. Time to sleep. I'm probably just so worn out that I'm imagining things. Good night, Shannon. Just crawl in bed and close your eyes, and you won't have to think about anything complicated. I went back into my bed. It felt a bit uncomfortable to crawl into a bed that wasn't mine. Still, it might just be because I'm getting so sleepy, but it's starting to feel as though this is my bed after all. I'm just half asleep. I am Shannon, a lonely servant. I mess up from time to time, but I want to become a kind servant whom everyone loves. Good night, me. Oh, I am one yet many. I've had enough of playing the servant. I've had enough of being human. From this night forth, I am Beatrice, the Golden Witch Beatrice, who has lived for 1,000 years. Praise me, servants. Have fear when you are chosen for the night shift. In the nighttime mansion, everything is mine, for that is my time. Oh, I am one yet many. Yes, let other worlds swallow up everything. It is like the raging seas. Well now, let us drink the mysterious moon dry tonight with this human book as a side dish. You call this a mystery? You call this a closed room? You call this a crime impossible for humans? Don't make me laugh. With all these holes and weak points, you call this a crime impossible for humans? Is there no splendid closed room magic that can do my name justice? No, not here, not here, not there either. All of them pathetic. It's enough to make one giggle, but now I'm not sure which is the side dish, the moon or the book. If I get tired of mystery, I can change myself into a butterfly. I can flit about the island, the mansion, the vast forest at will. I'll follow those cowardly servants as they do their nighttime rounds, and when they check to see that a window is locked, they'll see me laughing at them in the reflection on the glass. I can be fickle and do as I please. Pranks at night should be a lot of fun. Okay, I've decided. Let's play like that starting tonight. How amusing. What amusement this night shall bring. In the world of witches, the only limits to your fun are the limits of your imagination. My imagination shall become the source of my magical power. Splendid. It shall be all so fun. I shall expand it infinitely, and let it swallow the whole island. The island's night will all be mine. Oh, how refined and pleasant are the days of a witch. Oh, I'm one yet many. Here's to the wonderful world of witches. Yeah, so that section was really interesting. A lot of things are starting to click together. If you're maybe trying to think about how all this plays out, like we saw how Beatrice got into, or Chapter 5, A New Element. We saw how Beatrice got into mystery novels. We saw Beatrice learning from Kumasawa about the mansion's secrets, about learning about what magic means to Beatrice, what it means to have witches in mystery novels. But we're only partway there. But again, then, you might ask yourself, if you haven't thought of it, who is Beatrice exactly? Did you check the bathroom amenities? Yep, went down the whole list. Did you make sure they are facing the right way when you set them down? Yes, of course. Everything's as the list says. Thanks. Genji-sama, the guest rooms are ready now. Good work. Make sure you check over everything with your own eyes, Shannon. Also, Madam has ordered us to change the tablecloth in the dining hall again. My, why again when we all worked so hard to change it earlier today? The color of that tablecloth simply does not fit. Once I saw it against the backdrop of the room, I could see that it matched terribly. We should use a different tablecloth. Oh, and did you make sure to clean the chandelier in the parlor? I don't want Eva-san looking up and saying, "Oh, is that dust? And even a spiderweb? Again?" Do not worry. It has already been carefully cleaned and checked. I will now perform a final check on everything myself. Is that so? Very well. I will also check everything over at the very end. Shannon, take the young servants and prepare a new tablecloth. Try to find something white, with a bit more of a clean feeling. Yes, as you wish. Natsu was even more high-strung than normal and walked about barking orders here and there. Even though the sky was beginning to get dark, the servants moved hurriedly about. Tomorrow is the annual family conference. It isn't particularly rare for each of the individual families to visit the island, but this is the only time they all come together. It was the most important day of the year for both the Ushimiya family and Rokkenjima. Natsu was short-tempered on top of being high-strung, kept ordering the servants redo this or that, since it really didn't look good after all. This would keep them going until late into the night. Now that Shannon had many years of experience, and Natsu had put her in a position of responsibility, she was called over many times to have strict orders showered on her. So when Shannon finished her shower and lay down on the bed in the servant room, she fell asleep almost immediately. I can hear the sound of wind coming from somewhere far away. It's a bit different from the sound wind outside a room would make. It's almost as though I'm sitting in a deck chair in the rose garden, turning over in my sleep, with the feel of the wind in my hair. That's right, the feel. This isn't a sound, it's a feeling. Then, is this a dream? Just as I was about to accept this theory, I thought I heard someone talking to me. My. It seems the work of a servant is as boring as it ever was. Not only boring, but difficult, strict, constraining, joyless. All you get in return for your years as servants is some level of respect from the newer servants. And even that is far from sufficient to repay you for all the hard work you've done. Why do you not tire of this life? Huh? Who? She wasn't just imagining someone talking to her. She was shocked to find it was real. When Shannon opened her eyes, she gulped. This place. She couldn't say any more. She was literally stunned silent. Shannon, who had been sleeping on a bed, was somehow in a rose garden. However, though this rose garden somehow resembled the rose garden in Rokkenjima, it was also completely different. After all, the roses were golden. And it wasn't just the flowers, but the dancing butterflies too. It was a golden rose garden of mysterious beauty. Somehow Shannon was sitting in a chair under the arbor. It was as though she'd taken a nap there and woken up from a dream. But it felt strange. Is this golden rose garden a dream? For some reason, it felt as though my entire life up to this point had been a dream, and I finally awakened here. Welcome, Shannon. Welcome to my golden rose garden. There was the voice again. Shannon looked around to find who it was. As she did, a golden butterfly landed on the seat across from her and instantly created a human form. It has been quite some time, Shannon. Have you been well? Of course I know you have been. After all, I've been watching all of you every day. This woman laughed as though she was an old friend of Shannon's. However, Shannon obviously didn't remember this strange gold rose garden, and she didn't remember this person's face either. Indeed, you no longer remember me, do you? Have I forgotten about you? If so, please forgive me. There is no need to apologize. I made you that way, so it is no sin of yours. Let me introduce myself. I am the Golden Witch, Beatrice. Beatrice-sama. The benefactor of the Ushimiya family, whom the master always speaks of. Not that, Beatrice. I am the Golden Witch, the one who rules over Rokkenjima's night. I am the other master of the mansion, the one you always pay homage to. You are... Beatrice-sama. Haha, you need not fear. The two of us used to be friends. No, roommates, did we not? At one time I idolized you and tried to be the best servant I could. I've always had a single-person room, so I couldn't have had a... When we last parted, I stole away your memory. However, I have not forgotten that we were once roommates. I also remember that I was the one who destroyed our friendship and left. So as to not leave you alone in sadness, I erased all of your memories, and the very world of our days together. You do not need to understand, but believe this, I have not called you here to do you harm. Isn't this inside one of my dreams? You may think of it that way. Strictly speaking, I beckoned your soul to my garden while you were sleeping, to invite you to be a resident of this world. Beatrice snapped her fingers, and a storm of gold butterflies all rose up around the rose garden. As the cloud of butterflies danced over the table, a gorgeous tea set appeared. There were teacups and a teapot, more elegant even than those but used by the Ushimiya family. The tea was filled to the brim, and had a sweet rose scent, one which Shannon had never smelled before. Before there was even time to be amazed by that scent, butterflies started gathering one by one on the table, and a tea stand sprouted right out of it. It was like watching a magical mushroom from a fairy tale grow out of the ground. It was a many-layered tea stand filled with beautiful cakes like edible jewels. Of course, there were also several lovely, light brown scones. The honey truly was golden honey, with bits of gold leaf dancing through it. It seems the Ushimiya family holds tea parties from time to time, but those cannot compare to mine. Incredible! I've never seen anything like this. Even if you did, it would only have been as a waitress. You are my friend. I need no waitress. After all, I am a witch. That is more than enough. Come, do not be shy. Stuff yourself to your heart's content. Thank you. Very much. That was all Shannon managed to say. It would be hard for anyone to say much more after being suddenly invited to such a beautiful witch tea party. Let us begin with black tea. The milk is fresh and the sugar is so delectable you'd almost want to eat it raw. But I recommend you try your tea straight first. With nothing more than a single rose petal floating on the top, it will surely be so delicious that you'll be unable to drink the black tea of the human world ever again. Laughing happily, Beatrice opened not a sugar pot, but a rose petal pot, picked up a single crimson petal and floated it on her tea after relishing its scent. Shannon did the same, picking up a single petal and smelling its aroma. It smells so wonderful. Is this really the scent of the roses in this world? I am glad you enjoy it. I bred this rose simply for the purpose of using the petals of black tea. If you crush them, they're also splendid for making jam. That goes better with scones than anything else imaginable. Hey Catboy, thank you so much for following me and being a froggy friend. Thank you, thank you. Do you want to try? Sure, just a bit. Shannon had been invited to the witch tea party suddenly. However, the witch seemed so truly innocent, and her smile as she played the hostess was so happy, it made Shannon want to smile too. The tension in Shannon's heart gradually faded, and she started to enjoy her chat with this witch. Servant work really is tiring. I remember it well, particularly cleaning the windowsills in the chapel. How surprising. So you worked as a servant once too? For a short time, you probably don't remember, but I worked alongside you. I was a clumsy fool who always lost things. You were my idea of a perfect servant, and the person I looked up to. That makes me even more sorry that I can't remember. There is no need for apologies. Here you are not a servant, but my friend and guest. There are no inconveniences here, no trials nor boredom. I can give you anything you desire. That is how much power I currently possess. I want to let you know that I have now reached that level. I'm truly grateful to you for welcoming me with so few redeeming features in such an extravagant way. Think of it as a reward for all the painful days you have withstood. Come, gold butterflies, don't let my friend get bored. Show her a little dance. When you have tired of that, allow me to call the band to perform any song you'd like. When you have tired of that, my refined familiars will show you some conjuring tricks. Fear not, for time is endless here, and I can grant your wishes endlessly. My tea party has no end. In a truly good mood, the witch told Shannon several strange stories. They were all stories Shannon had never heard before. Very interesting stories. And they were all odd, bizarre fairy tales. Shannon felt as though she had become Alice in Wonderland. The time she spent at this tea party was strange, pleasant, and relaxed. No, the clocks have no hands in this tea party. So the time passed like a Sunday morning when you can wrap yourself in your blanket for as long as you want. I can't express how grateful I am to you for this. There is no need for thanks. In the human world, words of thanks go along with words of farewell, do they not? There will be no end to this tea party, so there is no need for thanks either. I'll still thank you. Thank you so much, Beatrice-sama, for this wonderful tea party. But all dreams must end, and so must this one. Oh, and why must they end? Because I start early tomorrow. If we stay here talking too long, I'll sleep in, and Madam will give me a good scolding. Why are you so anxious to return to the world of that short-tempered Natsui? Really now? Are you truly saying you want to return to the human world where it's all work and no rewards? But I am human. I can't impose myself on you forever. Shannon, it seems you do not understand. I invited you here, but I have no desire to chase you away again. Here, time is eternal. You are not obligated to say farewell, not ever. I will never tire of enjoying tea with you. On the contrary, it is quite agreeable to have you here to talk to. I'm grateful for your words, but I am human. I must return to my own world. Why do you want to return to that colorless world, where you waste all your time with school, and your job and the family works you to the bone? Despite all that, it's still my world. Shannon, does that sort of world really need to be yours? Let me be honest with you. Shannon, I didn't just invite you here. I came to take you home. Take me home? Once I tried to become a good servant like you. Then I became fascinated by witches, and became one myself, learning all the pleasures of magic. And now I've come to take you home. Beatrice spoke quietly and slowly rose from her seat. Shannon, the world of witches truly is more fun than being a servant. This tea party is nothing more than a mere welcoming party for an old friend. We can hold as many fun festivities as we desire. That is the endless, the eternal. Now that this golden rose garden has been completed, I have reached my goal. This place is paradise. Yes, let us call it the Golden Paradise. Now that it has been completed, I have come to welcome you in. There's no need for any inconveniences, any perseverance or hard work. Here you and I can enjoy ourselves for all eternity. It will be like a never-ending fairy tale. I'm truly grateful for your splendid proposal. However, I need to go back to my original world. Why? Because this isn't my world. I acknowledge it. This is not the world you have lived in until now. That's why I invited you here. From this point forth, this will be our world. You are no longer a guest. You are the second master of this world. You need show no restraint for my sake. We'll just live in this endless world like we once lived as roommates. I regret I have no memory of that time. However, I'll have to turn down your invitation. Why? What responsibility forces you to return to the world of humans? True, the world of humans, or the world of servants, is busy all the time. Madam is strict and high-strung and has a short temper. I'd be a lie if I said everyday chores were a pain, and having to balance work with school makes it even harder. Beatrice had watched over Shannon's painful days the whole time. She had seen those constantly tired shoulders, heave in a sigh over and over. That was why she invited Shannon here, to this golden paradise. She tried to give Shannon a perfect welcome to truly make her happy. So why had Shannon selected her original world over this one? Beatrice was overcome with shock, and completely unable to understand. I've given you the perfect welcome to this paradise, and the days to follow will be even more fun. So since you still choose the human world over all that, do you find something that is even more fun than the pleasure of witches? That's right. There are things in the human world that are even more fun than magic. Absurd! That cannot be! Yes, it's true. Shannon's expression was soft. However, her words were firm. There was something wonderfully fascinating in the human world. And that something was apparently not in this paradise, where everything was supposedly just as they wanted it. Absurd. I don't understand. As Beatrice muttered, she shifted restlessly several times. However, no matter how often she said it, Shannon's smile didn't falter, and Beatrice couldn't think of an answer. It's that George, isn't it? In that case, it's time for me to leave. Your tea was delicious. I don't understand. I am the Great Golden Witch, the one who can have anything endlessly. You tell me I cannot give you what you want. Yes. I want to know. I believed I had everything, so tell me what is it I lack. I think that you already know. Isn't that why you invited me here? Are you trying to speak in riddles to a witch? Huh. That's all for now then. I can't live here, but I'll be glad to come over whenever you invite me for tea. I won't call for you again. Have no fear of that. Beatrice snapped her fingers, and Shannon popped out of existence. Shannon's soul had returned to the dream of her original self. While humans have many dreams in a night, they can remember none of them. The tea party in this paradise mixed in with many other dreams and vanished. The next morning, Shannon would not remember this tea party. However, Shannon's cup remained here. The witch who had lost her guest was standing alone, looked all the more lonely. The witch dug her fingernails into the tablecloth. That grimace as she bit her lower lip made it clear she still hadn't solved the puzzle Shannon had left behind. Rish, there's no need to worry about it. A black hole opened above Shannon's empty seat, and the owner of that voice fell out of it. I do worry. Oh, come on, how could she say it with such certainty? Maybe she just wants to get back to sleeping quickly since dawn is coming soon. What pleasure could Shannon know that I do not? What is this something that could be found in the human world but not in my paradise? I don't understand. I want to know. Thinking about complicated stuff will just fuel your headache. I could be of service in Shannon's place. Let's enjoy a tea party together. I don't feel like it anymore. I'm bored of having tea parties with you. Aw, she's cranky. The witch shrugged and laughed, then took a bite out of a scone. She then blew into it, and it swelled up like a balloon before finally popping. Golden ribbons and butterflies flew out, but Beatrice didn't appear to notice. Just what is it that I do not possess? What? Watch your step there. Thank you, Captain. Make sure you take good care of yourself. I've got a friend who sells this stuff that's supposed to be great for stiff shoulders. I'll bring you a sample next time. Oh, no need to trouble yourself, but thanks for caring. Hey, brats. How long are you gonna mess around up there? Let's go. Hey, Maria. Come down off the boat with Mama. Maria, who Rosa led by the hand, was still too young for kindergarten. However, she seemed to notice that her cousins, whom she rarely ever saw, were playing around her, and she was very excited. Adler and George had the energy of middle school or nearly middle school kids. Those two, along with Jessica, who had met them on Nijima, were clamoring all over on the boat. You okay, Asumu? You really don't like riding things, do you? Rudolph lent an arm to his wife, Asumu. Welcome to Rokujima. Thank you for making such a long journey. The whole family had gathered for the conference. At this point in time, Rudolph's wife was still Asumu, and Ange hadn't been born. Goda and Cannon hadn't yet been employed by the Ushimiya family, and the witch's epitaph, which would just toy with the family's fate, had not appeared yet. They probably couldn't even imagine the bizarre crime they would encounter several years later. Kraus-sama, madam, the family has arrived. Good. Should I call for father? Please do. I will go welcome everyone. Oh, Shannon. Who'd clean this window frame? It still has dust on it. Quickly wipe it off. As you wish, madam. Oh, come on. Natsui's making her work so hard again. And just what good does she find in such a limited, ulcer-inducing life? I wanted to know. Shannon, what is it that you found? And what did you mean when you said I already knew what I was missing? Shannon, is it something I must learn by learning about you? What's different about the day of the family conference on Rokujima? It's gotta be the noise. There's never this many kids around. It may be a tension-filled day for the adults. But to us kids, it was a wonderful day. The only time we got to see all the cousins we loved. In the summer, we'd play with our cousins on the beach, and even in the winter, there were plenty of games we could play. The family conferences were tons of fun for us. Same here! Mom was always yelling about how there must be no mistakes, but to me it was just a day I got to play with all my cousins. After all, there's usually nothing at all to do on Rokkenjima. Back when I was still a brat, I was always jealous of Jessica getting to live in this huge mansion with a private beach. But now that I tried putting myself in her shoes, it must have been a pretty constricting place to live. Probably. There's hardly anything on Rokkenjima. No friends' houses, no next-door neighbors, no neighborhood. If you think of how Jessica must have felt, you have to feel a little sad for her. That's why the family conference was so special to me. Jumping around, messing around. It felt like I was at a festival. We played tricks on each other all the time. If the adults always talked about adult things and told you to go play somewhere else. Then you were three cousins about your same age. Of course you'd horse around. No, not the three of us. The four of us. But I thought Ange wasn't born yet, and Maria was still too young to play with you. You've got it wrong, Furfur. The cousins weren't the only ones the same age. Shannon-chan was the fourth. She was about the same age as the rest of us. Mom was always going on about not talking with the servant kids, but Shannon and I started to get close. After all, she was the girl closest to me in age on Rokkenjima. All four of us played together. We played at every family conference. Right, Shannon? Right. I knew that Madam would scold me if she found out, but I wouldn't have let her. You were always the one close friend I had that could understand me. Thank you for your words, milady. I simply could not hide my shock. How had she formed a relationship with the children of the family despite being only a servant? Natsui had probably been very careful to prevent such a relationship. However, it's no surprise that Jessica, all alone on this island, would want to be friends with a kid her age. Shannon was also alone on this island, without any friends her age. Though they both understood their relationship as master and servant, they somehow managed to strike up a friendship. Then, at the family conference, Jessica had introduced Shannon to George and Badler. All the adults had their hands full with their complicated discussion in the mansion. During that time, Shannon was able to set aside her role as a servant for a bit, acting her age with Jessica, George, and Badler. I didn't even know that Shannon had constructed this new world so quickly. As a butterfly hiding in the shadows, I observed this new world of Shannon's. That day we ran all around the rose garden on the beach. Just running around and playing was a blast. Yep, those were the only times that Shannon-chan smiled like a girl her age. I might have gotten a bit carried away. It's embarrassing. Badler's insanely huge now, but back then Shannon and I were both taller and stronger than him. I just grew slowly back then. They say that those who start late end up the tallest. Yeah, totally. Back then, your chest was nothing like this, right? Oh great. Badler, don't make that face, please. That's not true. Shannon already had plenty of womanly charm back then, right? Ugh, who knows? What the hell do you mean by womanly charm, you perv? Well, I was still pretty cute back then myself. That bra strap you could see through the shoulder of your summer clothing set off the lightning of youth in me. I remember whispering with George Ananki that night about how big her tits might be. Is it true, George-sama? I believe there's been some sort of misunderstanding. All I remember was lecturing him as the older and more knowledgeable cousin about the differences between how boys and girls grow. And so rather than dirty talk between cousins late at night, it was instead a sign of healthy growth and, Yeah, I remember all of us cousins talking about stuff like that until midnight. About how apparently someone in the next class had kissed someone else, or how he held hands with a girl you liked at summer camp. And about so-and-so who you thought probably liked you, stuff like that. Damn it, it's so embarrassing, it makes me shiver. Isn't that nice? Another sweet page of the book of adolescence. The most pure love comes when boys and girls first start noticing each other. That simple, pure desire just be around someone of the opposite sex. The noble first loves. Just wonderful. A bunch of kids thinking and talking about the world of love. Did that sort of thing really happen? Don't play dumb. You were the most absorbed and curious of all of us, sitting there till your ears turned red. I was not curious. I was just surprised at how much everyone knew. And that's right, Shannon always played dumb the most, even though she was the most interested. She was the biggest pervert there. That's not true. That's not true. I hate you, milady. Yeah, it was always like this. In the days we'd run around like kids, and at night we'd hug our pillows and talk about secret stuff. Looking back on all of it now, it really brings back some fond memories. We'd be whispering of something dirty, and whenever we heard the footsteps of the adults come by, we'd jump under the covers and pretend to be sleeping. Yeah, I remember that. Like some school field trip. Those times we all dove under the covers at once, it felt like some sort of unspoken rule, like a strange sense of unity. I really liked that feeling. Well, anyway, that's not all we talked about. There was a lot more than that. We really did enjoy our youth to the fullest. And what is this? Shannon, is this that fun thing of the human world? Is this incomprehensible messing around the thing you found? A bunch of kids gathered together, playing stupid games and talking about trivial matters. Is this the human pleasure you found that surpasses the pleasure of witches? Yes. Doesn't it look like fun to you? I won't call it boring. However, I cannot see how such a vulgar game can compare to my paradise, where all wishes can be granted. Interacting with people is a lot of fun. Of course, I also think your world is fun, but even so, I choose this world. I don't understand. I don't understand at all. Beatrice held her head as though she was having a headache, but no matter how much she grimaced, she couldn't think of an answer. Tell me, what is it you found within this vulgar playing? Do you want to know? I do. Love. Love? Here. It's the Queen book I promised. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to borrow it. That's okay. You can keep it, Shannon-chan. I've already read it. But I can't accept this. It was probably expensive. It's just something I got for a few hundred yen at a bazaar. Don't worry about it. I'd rather if you read it quickly so we could talk about it. It's fun to talk about this sort of stuff with you, Shan-chan. Yes, it's fun for me too. It's much more fun to read mystery novels with two people instead of alone. I like talking about it, imagining all kinds of things. With mystery novels, reading's only half the fun. My theory is that you can only really enjoy it when you talk with other people who've read it too. Our relationship began when we realized we both read mystery novels. We were both surprised and very interested to find the other not only read tons of mystery novels, but read them very thoroughly. Ever since then, it's been like this. Separate from the games we played with all the cousins, the two of us met together for some time alone. At first, it was like a sort of contest to see who knew more than the other. However, eventually this turned into respect for how much the other had read and how deeply they were able to think about it. Respect. Trust. These emotions made our friendship even stronger. Of course, all of that had still fallen within the category of friendship. But we were still highly aware of the fact that the other was of the opposite sex, making for a relationship that was charming or youthful, or maybe you could call it exciting. However, we were still at the age where calling us young men and women would probably be a bit too gracious. Of course, we didn't know a thing about love, so we couldn't understand that exciting feeling in our chests, both bitter and sweet, that we only felt when we were alone together. However, we realized that there was some unknown emotion hidden behind that feeling, and as our hearts raced, we had our hands upon the door. That was the exciting age we were at. So, at some point our discussions about mystery novels became just an excuse for us meeting alone. There aren't many mystery novels that care much about the why-done-it. The why-done-it? You mean the culprit's motive? Yeah. There are 3 points you need to figure out in mystery novels. The who-done-it, the how-done-it, and the why-done-it. A lot of mystery novels deal with the first two, but surprisingly few worry about the final one. Well, I know about many works that take great care to have the culprit confess his motive after he's been found out. But it has to be something you can reason out before the culprit confesses, or it doesn't count. Personally, I think it's unfair for a person who supposedly didn't have a motive to commit a crime, unless it's possible to reason his or her motive out. Who done it? Who's the culprit? How done it? How did he commit the crime? Why done it? Why did he commit the crime? There are a ton of works that ask about the who the culprit is, and what tricks they used. In fact, almost all are like that. However, I don't think there are many novels that ask you to figure out the motive. Good point. That might be the most neglected of the three. Mysteries that don't take the why done it seriously don't really feel complete to me. No, I'm not saying they're boring. It's more like they're missing the most important part. The most important part is missing. The heart. The heart is missing. The heart. I think the human heart is a really important thing. If a person's gonna decide to commit murder, plan it out, get everything ready and actually carry it out, you need an incredibly strong force of the heart. The heart is what moves people. In other words, only the heart can kill a person. When an emotional upheaval grows strong enough to make a person want to kill, the result is a tragedy called murder. If we turn around, does that mean the true way to close in on the crime is by searching for the heart that brings about the tragedy of murder? Only the heart can kill a person. So if a person has been killed, you must search for that heart. That's what he's saying. That's why I can't really enjoy novels where the culprit is just a homicidal maniac who kills for fun. Then you like novels that show a strong enough movement of the heart to lead to murder. That's right. And my favorite ones are the novels that let you reason that out. As he spoke, he looked back at me and smiled. Before today, I used to like novels that focused on exposing tricks. However, I decided to look for novels like the ones he recommended in the future. I don't like neglecting the heart. The heart is what makes people move. Yeah, I think you're right. This isn't limited to the mystery genre. All humans are moved by their hearts all the time. Being able to notice the heart is what allows for interactions between people. No, interactions between hearts. None of us humans can live on our own. Yet we have no way of peeking into the hearts of others. That's why every meeting between people is a mystery of the heart. Finding those, reasoning about them, and understanding each other is the key to interactions between people and hearts. The two of us are here all alone, talking about mysteries. And through that, we're searching out each other's hearts, speaking of the heart's mysteries. I want you to feel about me the way I feel about you. We're both searching, trying to figure out the depths of the other's heart, in this mystery of love. Yeah, it is a really nice saying. I mean, again, Umineko has a lot of interesting metaphors and allegories behind it, specifically about what love is, what magic is, about understanding other people. It just has a very roundabout way of going it, but it has a very interesting message. And again, it all ties into the whole theme, the whole motive behind the entire novel. Look how late it's gotten. I wonder if Aniki and the others are waiting for us. Yes, we should probably go back soon. Time seems to fly by when I'm talking with you, Shan-chan. You seem to be speaking the words of my heart. We were thinking the same thing, so the same words came out. I wish we could talk together like this forever. I hate clocks. Same here. Talking about this stuff with you is the most fun part of coming to Rokujima. When I saw his smiling eyes were looking right at me, I turned away. I couldn't let him see my suddenly red face. If only I could leave this place, I'd be able to read so much more. The bookshop on Nijima that I go to and the bookshop he goes to in the city are on completely different scales. The book exchange between the two of us had become completely one-sided, with him giving me all the books. How long do you plan to be a servant, Shan-chan? I don't know. If someday you decide to quit. If I do, come over to my place. He said it almost carelessly. Maybe he was a bit embarrassed since he laughed weakly and blushed a little. And then, we won't need to worry about time running out anymore. That's right. We could be together as long as we wanted. The little secret dates on this island only happen a few times a year. And even when they did happen, it was only for a short, uncertain period of time. It wouldn't work over the phone or with letters. We can only talk about our mystery when we're standing together like this. I know that day will come someday. You think it will? Yeah, I'm certain of it. Certain? Why is he certain? When that day comes, I'll come for you riding a white horse. What? After saying this, he turned away. He was probably too proud to show me his blushing cheeks. But even without seeing, I knew what his face looked like. To come riding on a white horse. Isn't that like a prince riding a white horse? So what exactly does it mean? Does it mean you're going to be my prince? My mind was going blank, so I just couldn't reason out his mystery of love, even though it was all plain and simple. I wonder when that day will come. Anytime you're ready. Huh? My heart skipped a beat. It was so sweet, yet it hurt. Anytime's good for me. This is your life we're talking about, Shannon-chan. You should think about it carefully before you decide. And once you've made up your mind, I'll respect your decision, no matter when you make it. Okay. I'll keep on waiting until that day comes. If only I'd been a bit more foolish and courageous. I could have said then and there that I was already prepared and asked him to take me away from this island right away. But I couldn't say it. I had to think carefully about my future for both of our sakes. My head was filled with pointless, senseless thoughts. I'm glad. Thank you. With his back still to me, he scratched his head and laughed. I knew he was doing this out of embarrassment, so I could clearly tell what his expression must have been. In the same way, he must have realized what my face looked like. We're both puzzle solvers of love. We theorize about each other's love, solving each other's mysteries. Thanks for giving me time. You have all the time in the world. No. I'd feel bad if I kept you waiting too long. So I've decided. No, I should say that I will decide. I don't mean I'll quit my job today, right now. Yes, 1 year. 1 year from now. If a year from now you still feel like coming for me on a white horse. And me too. But I still like you a year from now. I'd like to dedicate the rest of my life to you. 1 year from now, right here. I'd like to make my decision. A year, huh? That sounds good. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. That's a good amount of time to look honestly into your heart. So, next year. Please, come for me, okay? Yep. He responded to my cowardly determination with a quick, strong answer. I'll be waiting for that day to come. Yes, I'll be waiting too. Make sure you come, okay? Yeah. Don't forget. Come here next year, okay? Yeah. I'll come. That's for certain. I'll meet you here. That's for certain. So if you recall, this event was alluded to in episode 1. Hey, Vibram! I can't remember if I said hi to you when you came in earlier. Or did I say hi to you when we started the stream? I can't remember. But welcome, regardless. I see. So, this emotion that feels like sweet suffocation is love. It is an emotion I do not know. One I do not have. Though my magic can grant any wish. Though my paradise can grant any wish. That thing I cannot have. That incomprehensible emotion. That burns like fire, yet madly, one wants to hold it close. All I know is that no matter how great a witch I might become, I cannot create this emotion. It must be given by another person. For the first time I realized that I wasn't all-powerful, and I knew what Shannon had discovered in the world of humans. This emotion, it's just too much. Once you've felt it, there's no forgetting it, is there? Shannon, you win. Love, is it? It may be the most important element, and the one I lack. Shannon, I'll watch and see how your love develops. So please teach me more and more about this new emotion. Yeah, for those that missed it, or you couldn't tell, that wasn't Shannon and George. That was Shannon and Badler. This form is... I'm lending it to you. After all, I hate idiots. Call yourself Claire as a temporary name, or would you prefer Bito? You have my gratitude. This way I won't have to expose my pitiful form. Bern Castell had given Claire a fake form. It was a temporary form for the person acting the part of Beatrice. And again, Claire is the name, well, it alludes to, because her name is Claire Bernard, or Claire Vaux Bernard. And that is a reference to Saint Bernard de Vauclair, who is Dante's final guide in the Divine Comedy after Virgil and Beatrice. A fake to fool those who still hadn't discovered Beatrice's true form. Again, if you haven't figured out Beatrice's identity, Claire is basically a manifestation of who that person is to hide their identity, to keep you guessing. Then, is this a tale about me in another world? Leon, this is indeed a tale of you in another world, and also my tale. The tale of a world where I live as a witch, not a human. I am capable of imagining what-if scenarios for my own life. However, the tale you tell is beyond anything I can imagine. Even so, it's the life that another you has led. But still, that doesn't mean I can accept it easily. Leon suddenly yelled and looked at the floor. Leon already knew. Because of the fragments lent by Bern Castell, Leon knew. There was a different world, where Leon lived as the Golden Witch, Beatrice. And in this world eventually, on the day of 1986 October Family Conference, she would be the ringleader of a terrible crime. Even if it is a different world, you're saying I get my entire family, and all the servants involved in a terrible crime that I'm the mastermind of. How am I supposed to deal with that? Be quiet, listen, and figure it out. In a different life, I end up as a servant. And if that wasn't enough, I suddenly become a witch. Then I eventually carry out several terrifying murders. How am I supposed to understand that? Knowing that Claire is the final guide really adds to your idea about who Will represents on the board. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, you're welcome. There's a lot of really interesting, like, undertones and symbolism that they kind of slip in here and there. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I doubt anyone could understand. This person here thought that no one would ever understand. That's why you're here. That's why Bern Castell brought you two people who should never have met together like this. It's not like I had any deep reason for it. It was just a whim. This is a motive that no one can understand, Leon, so you might be the one to understand it. I'm not the main character in this tale. You are. I'm just here to help you understand. You said that you understand the culprit's motive. Yes. Is that motive a satisfying explanation for why I'd kill my entire family? Who knows? That's for you to decide. Even if I say it's satisfying, that doesn't mean it'll satisfy you. You have to decide that for yourself. I really don't have a clue what's going on. I've seen several crimes called game boards that Beatrice supposedly carried out. And now I'm hearing another me talk about a different life from mine. But there's no connection between that and the crime. I don't understand. At this point in the tale, even I could not have dreamed that I would eventually carry out such terrible crimes. In fact, even if I had been able to dream of it, I did not have the power to commit those crimes at the time. Probably. Your misfortune probably came when you solved the epitaph's riddle. Huh? You mean the epitaph about the hidden gold, which grandfather supposedly wrote? There exists a system for gaining different accomplices for each crime. Reasoning can lead us to the possibility that the culprit possessed a vast amount of money. We can also envision another system. which involves inviting all to the Golden Land, and making all love bear fruit. So it wasn't just the motive. You've already seen that far as well. That's the answer to the final riddle from the 4th game. Your greatest misfortune was solving the epitaph, reviving as the Golden Witch in the truest sense, and gaining magical power. Looking back, was that really the misfortune after all? I do not know. However, as long as the fact that Badler-san returns in 1986 remains unchanged, some sort of tragedy would certainly have occurred. That's right. If Badler had returned a year later, or earlier, that incident might not have occurred. No, some small incident probably would have occurred, and it would surely have been a mysterious, impossible incident, which no one could have explained. But even so, compared to the Rokenjima serial murders, it would have been a tiny thing. If Badler-kun had returned a year earlier or later, then what? Fate can be so filled with irony. It made me walk the path of a witch, and when I saw the epitaph, I became a true witch. Then 6 years passed and I learned of his return. If all that was fate, then this cry must have been inevitable and inescapable for me. In 1980, Badler was resentful because of the death of his mother, Asumu, and his family's remarriage that came too soon, so he left the Ushimiya family. For 6 whole years he had no direct contact with them. He convinced his grandparents on his mother's side to help him and went by his mother's maiden name. Then when those grandparents passed away, he finally made up with Rudolph and returned to the Ushimiya family again in 1986. That bad luck gave birth to your motive for the crime. I did wonder, why after 6 whole years did he finally come back? I understand. In a way, it would have been better for you if he had never come back. Of course, my suffering would have endured, or continued. However, I may not have tainted myself with the unforgivable crime of mass murder. How could Badler-kun leaving create a motive? You've got it backwards. Backwards? The crime didn't occur because Badler left. It happened because Badler came back. The more I think about it, Ushimiya Badler was quite a disagreeable man. More than anything else because he never realized the outbreak of the crime was his fault. He did remember in the end. However, that was long after you gave up and disappeared. If that is so, then it would give my heart some peace. I don't have a clue what you two are talking about anymore, but I'd like to ask you bluntly. I want to know, what on earth happened to you that made you decide on committing crime? Yes, that's the most important part. It's just like how Ushimiya Badler respected the why done it in mystery novels. That's where the answers to all the riddles are hidden, both in the tale of the Golden Witch and in the game. In that case, allow me to continue. 1980, 6 years before I resolved myself to committing the crime. Chapter 6, Days of Trial. (1980), 6 years until the incident. Badler-sama has left the Ushimiya family. That's what Kraus-sama and Rudolph-sama were saying. What a shock! I have no intention of criticizing your way of life or your family situation. However, father is in a towering rage. Disinheriting a son is one thing, but I've never heard of a child becoming fed up and leaving the family on his own. That Badler can be surprisingly stubborn, sort of like someone else I know. If you are unable to understand Badler-kun's feelings, one might question your right to be a father. Enough, Natsui. I'm sure Rudolph was just trying to show how dedicated he was to raising Kirie-san's child in his own way. I would have nothing to say if this was happening next year. But why this year? He's still in his period of mourning. If you consider the timing of this pregnancy, one must acknowledge that Rudolph's son has acted disgracefully. You always love Natsui in this part? Yeah, get his ass. Yeah, Rudolph is not a great guy. Come on, don't be harsh. This is my way of atoning for what I've done. Badler-kun's trying to protest against you on the behalf of his departed mother, Asumu-san. I deeply understand how he feels. If he were here, I would want to hold him and cry along with him. Natsui's words were sharp. They pierced Rudolph mercilessly. Rudolph had no retort. His relationship with Kirie had been adulterous, plain and simple. According to Rudolph, he had been close to Kirie longer than Asumu. And even after his marriage to Asumu, that relationship had not disappeared. And again, kinda neat, Ryukishi said he named Kirie and Asumu both after Ragnarok Online spells. Asumu is Assumptio, and then Kirie is another one. But the two spells are incompatible with each other, you can't use them at the same time. What the hell does that mean? You old bastard. So you've just been betraying Mom from the start? Sure, I know Kirie-san. You told me she was your business partner, and a friend whose advice you could always rely on. If you're trying to say after all this time she was more than that, then why should I give a damn? After Mom's death, you could have done whatever you wanted. I'm right there with you saying you should live life as you please. But just when did Kirie-san get pregnant? Back when Mom was still alive, right? Yeah, now I finally see. So this is why you always make me want to vomit. Are you glad that Mom's finally dead now? You are, aren't you? I'm sure it would have been so hard on you keeping your infidelity and even a kid's secret while Mom was still alive. But now that Mom conveniently kicked it, you get to marry Kirie-san and I get a new little brother or sister? You can bet that Mom's crying in heaven. You bastard. You're embarrassing. I'm embarrassed. So embarrassed I can't stand to have the same last name as you. The kid is completely guiltless. It'd be too sad if he or she doesn't have both parents together. Go ahead. Build a new family and raise that kid to have a happy life. But I'll never forgive you. Mom isn't here to hate you anymore, so I'll hate you in her place. With all my body and soul. So long, old bastard. Yeah, so basically, the whole family basically found out about Rudolph and Kirie when this happened. I don't know exactly what types of spells Assumptio and whatever Kirie were. You'd have to look it up. I played Ragnarok Online for a very, very, very short stint of time. It was fun, but I played it for like literally just a couple weeks. I always liked the art style though, and the character designs were cool. That is enough, Natsui. Rudolph hasn't lost the affection he feels for Badler-kun. It may take some time, but he wants to fix the relationship one day. As any father should. If it were some complete stranger, that would be one thing, but this is your own flesh and blood son. It's clearly your responsibility. Go ahead. Despise me all you want. I won't argue. That's the only way I can atone. At the very least, make sure you give the new child a happy life. The kid is going to be born, and Badler. They're both my kids. Wedding Kirie-san after Asumu-san's death may have been painful for Badler-kun, but it was the best choice you could make for the coming child. I understand why you did it. And I understand why Badler-kun felt like telling you you were happy that Asumu-san was dead. Stop, Natsui. Rudolph has already been scolded enough by the person most fit to do so. Now then, how about some black tea? Could you go ask someone in the kitchen to make us some? Understood. Natsui took this as a signal to leave the room and did so. Once she left, Kraus relaxed slightly. I feel bad for Asumu-san, but if we consider the timing of that soon-to-be-born child, this might have been quite the coincidence. Almost as though Asumu knew that and stepped down from the stage of her own choosing. Did I kill Asumu? If so, how long has it been since I started killing her? You just looked it up and apparently... Oh yeah, I forgot. They actually patched it later. So originally Assumptio and Kirie Elysian could not be used together, and then they patched it so they could be together. But by then that was May 1st, 2020. Oh, thank you for looking that up. Long before Umineko was finished. That is kind of funny, isn't it? If you still treasure Asumu-san's memory, then no matter how many years it takes, you must fix your relationship with Badler-kun. Yeah, I know. And be sure to pour just as much affection on Kiryu-san and the new child that's to be born, while also bearing Asumi-san's cross. If they have reserved seating in hell... If they do, I'd like to reserve myself a VIP spot. Oh, you also checked it. Assumptio increases defense and healing received. Kyrie Elysian blocks incoming physical damage for a period of time proportionate to the target's max HP. Oh, interesting. Yeah, thanks for looking that up. Yeah, so originally they were not able to be used together, and then later they were patched to be able to be used together. Interesting. The news that Battler had abandoned the Ushimiya name swept across the family. Oh, poor Battler-san too. I do believe he'll make up with them eventually, but... This is a matter for the family. It is not something servants need to concern themselves with. Instead, we should focus on memorizing the face of the newest member of the Ushimiya family, Kiryu-sama. Does that mean we get an Umineko sequel of Asumu's return for revenge? Funny you say that, because they did release recently, or more recently, the latest update of Umineko has a new side story chapter that takes place after the entire game. I think it's called Our Answer, and it is currently not officially translated, but it does involve some of the stuff that we've been talking about, let's say. Yeah, it's not that I guess it's not to say they're still updating it, but every time they re-release Umineko on a new system, so like they had Umineko on the PC, Umineko on the PS3, the PS4, the Switch, every time they re-update it, they include extra bonus features. And apart from the main game of Umineko, Ryukishi also released a lot of mini short novels, or like short stories, about the Umineko characters. So then some of these re-releases included those short novels in the visual novel as bonus content. And then he wrote like a newer one more recently, which was included in the Switch and PS4 release. But unfortunately, they're not officially translated. But there are fan translations. Yes, that's true. She will be coming to the family conference this year. The person who just joined the Ushimiya family would be coming to the conference. And what about the person who just left the family? Hey, welcome! Sorry, I'll read your... Instead of reading your Korean name, because I can't read it, I'll read your other name. 1084742. Thank you so much for coming to the stream, and thank you so much for following me and being a Froggy friend. And welcome, also Golden Gentleman. Thank you for coming by and following as well. Were the side stories from the manga also added? I don't remember. There's definitely still side stories that have not been officially added to the visual novel, but I think some of the side stories from the manga are actually based off side stories that he already wrote. I could be wrong about that. But the latest release of Umineko does have pretty much everything, I believe. But I don't know, like each individual story, some of them were released as like standalone, some of them were released alongside other episodes, some of them were released as like bonus content, some of them were released with the manga. They all came from like different locations, which is what makes it confusing. That means Battler isn't coming, right? That seems the most probable outcome. How lonely is the loss of a single noisy man? Though most people felt a bit lonely to see Battler leave the Ushimiya family, they didn't think any more about it than that. However, what about Shannon? Wasn't Battler supposed to come for her on a white horse? I was surprised at first. I thought that since he had left the family, he might not be coming to this island anymore. If we consider Battler-san's feelings, this is only natural, I guess. I understand painfully well why he wanted to leave his family. But does that really mean he won't come to Rokkenjima anymore? What on earth is going on? Yeah, welcome, Golden Gentleman. I really appreciate you coming by. Yeah, today's going really well. I had a good day today. I did some clothes shopping, I ate some good food. Now we're streaming, it's been fun. Thank you so much for checking in, and I hope you are having a great day as well. Will he really never return? Unable to ask him this directly, I was forced to live each day fretfully. Battler-san, I understand how you feel, but to say you'll never return because you've abandoned your family, that's a lie, right? I was so confused the whole world seemed to be spinning around me. I had a tight feeling in my chest, and I couldn't think about anything. Oh hey, Golden Person 27, welcome to the stream! Wow, we have a lot of golden people here in the chat right now. How fitting for the game of the Golden Witch. Thank you for stopping by. When I happened to touch my cheek, I was surprised to find it hot and wet, while wearing a truly miserable expression on my face. I was crying. Shannon. Shannon. From far away I could hear someone calling to me, but it was a very strange sort of distance. Though it felt very far away, the voice also seemed to be coming from right beside me. Oh, and thank you so much for the follow as well, Golden Person 27. Thank you for being a froggy friend. You are all now golden froggies. Oh, thanks for calling Kirby, Lurk. This is Kirby, my little frog friend. Shannon, I know your heart. Oh, and thank you for the stretch and the lip sync as well, Lurk. You guys at home, make sure you take the chance to stretch as well. Make sure you're sitting upright in your seat. Make sure your joints are all happy. Don't be slouching. Don't let me catch you slouching. Shannon, I know your heart. It's okay. It's just a fight between a boy and his father. And I'm sure the rumors blow everything out of proportion. Everything's just being exaggerated. Indeed, there are none who can say with certainty that Balor will not return to this island. You would do well to remain strong. Where is this place? I seem to remember it somehow. I think it reminds me of the scenery from a strange dream I once had. Then this must be another dream. I was there under an arbor surrounded by a golden rose garden, and two witches in white and red dresses were showering words of encouragement upon me. You can be sure that those rumor-mongering young servants are embellishing the story however they please. So he has changed his name, they say. Surely this can be nothing more than a family quarrel. Thank you. I wish I could believe that. Of course it's true, he's a boy after all. You could hardly be surprised he's had a few arguments with his dad. Precisely, as you say. Clearly they will make it up to each other once they cool their heads. When men argue, it's always fire at first, but they burn out quickly. In contrast, an argument between women burns like a steady flame, but the fuel never goes dry. Men's arguments are fierce but short, quick and easy. You're right. I hope Balor-san and Rudolph-sama make up soon. Oh, they will. Haven't you heard Balor mentioning it all the time? He always fights with his father. This is just another one of those fights. The death of his mother and his father's remarriage have merely upset him. Oh, you prefer I can call you Goldie? Okay, yeah, we could do that. Nice to meet you, Goldie. It sounds as though he's gone to live with his mother's parents, but after he's cooled his head for a few days, he'll come back. It's like a kid running away from home, see? The two witches kept saying Balor's fight hadn't been anything huge. If it had been a mere family quarrel, the rumors wouldn't have started in the first place. Taking an optimistic view here isn't likely to prove useful. Either way, this is a problem between Balor and his father. If you're patient, time will heal all wounds. There's no point in you feeling bad over it. Just because Balor happened to be absent today doesn't mean we can be sure he'll never come back. All this means is that Rudolph came alone today. True. Of course he'll be at the next family conference as energetic as ever. By then, Rudolph would probably bring that Kyrie here too. Balor may be sulky about it, but I'm certain he will come as well. You're right. Yeah, I'm sure you're right. How nice it would be if they were right. In fact, if I could, I'd like to flip through the calendar until autumn right now and check to see whether he does come back to the next conference. If he does, then all my fears are groundless. It would mean the rumor-mongering family members and servants have just blown things out of proportion. If Balor-san was right here, I'd want to question him right away. Hey, it isn't true you'll never come back to Rokunjima again, right? And then if he said that of course he would come again, it would be such a relief. I don't know the phone number for Rudolph-sama's house, but I could probably look it up if I tried. However, as a servant of the family, I have no excuse for making such a call. And anyway, I have no way of knowing the phone number for Badler's grandparents' house. I can't do anything except wait for Rudolph-sama's family to come visit, and hope my fears are groundless. However, will I be able to make it through the day feeling like this? No way. I doubt I'll sleep a wink tonight, just waiting around feeling like this when I don't know when my next chance will come. I can't do that. When will it be? Will it be next month? Or the month after? In the worst case, I might have to wait until the next family conference. And I have to wait that long while holding back this suffocating feeling. I can't bear it. Oh, you like my froggy emotes? I'm really glad. Everything is frog themed around here. Hey Shannon, sorry to ask this out of the blue, but when you make up your mind to do something by next year, that something wasn't just quitting work as a servant on the island, right? That. I made the decision to start a new life. I didn't want to keep on being a servant by force of habit. I made the decision to step into a new life, and to leave my old life as a servant behind. And Badler promised he'd come here on the day of your decision, right? Yes. Tact is not one of my strong points, so I shall speak frankly. You made the decision and resolve yourself to starting a new life with Badler, correct? A new life with Badler-san. You are afraid that Badler would not come for you on the day of your decision. However, there is more to that day of decision than just Badler coming to see you. It's also the day for you to show that you're determined to spend the rest of your life with him. This determination is something you must create for yourself. It won't bear fruit simply because Badler shows up. Shannon, do you now have the determination to spend the rest of your life with him? You decided to put it off until the next family conference because you didn't have that determination the last time, right? What does it mean to live life with Badler? Have you ever thought seriously about it in detail? Well, as long as I'm working as a servant on Rokonjima, my opportunities for meeting him are limited. We're both underage, so it's too early to talk about, marriage. You also like my model a lot? And my voice? Oh, thank you so much, you guys are too kind. However, if I quit working as a servant, I should have more opportunities to meet him. Once I quit work here, I'll return to the Fukuin house. I'll have my wages from serving the family, so I should have more than enough to travel to Badler-san's house to play. And when I graduate from school, I can rent an apartment near Badler-san's house. Then, well, I can work while going to school. That life would be a lot more difficult than I first thought. However, I'll be able to see Badler-san much, much more often. If not every day, then every week. I won't be a servant anymore, so there won't be any difference in class. I can call him whatever I want. And I'm already doing both school and work. Thanks to my experience here, I know more than enough to do simple housework. Doesn't that sound like a fun life? You can rent a humble abode, and once you built up your own home, you can invite Badler over. And then the time you spent together, the world the two of you make will begin. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Yes, it does sound a bit wonderful. This was the first time I ever imagined that future clearly. My love for him, and my honest desire to live my life with him. Earlier, I was able to consider both of these deeply. However, now that I'm clearly imagining the future I plan to choose, I finally understand. I may be aware of how much determination will be needed to reach that future. No need to apologize for your excitement. I'm very flattered. Thank you, thank you. I'm usually during Umineko streams, I'm too busy reading to constantly be reading everything in chat on the fly, but I appreciate it. You dream of marriage eventually, don't you? Oh, girls these days dating with marriage in mind at such a young age. Well, that's a bit, Don't deny your dreams, okay? There's no point in taking a first step if your eyes are closed and don't look to the future. If a girl's in love with a man, there's nothing wrong with thinking, I want to marry him. That's a young girl's natural right. My face had turned a bright red. Earlier I thought that considering marriage really was a bit premature, so I tried as best as I could not to think about it. However, when the witches encouraged me to imagine it, that image was both exciting and vivid. I felt an indescribable feeling of refreshment and awakening. like the gentle breeze that washes over you when you go outside during a brief spot of sunshine on a rainy day. That's right, I didn't actually have the determination to go that far. I need to strengthen my determination by the time the next family conference comes around. If I can't do that, then sticking around as a servant on this island is no more than I deserve. And at the same time, there's also a trial. True, a trial to be overcome. A trial? Why is that? Fool. Battler promised he would come for you at the next family conference, did he not? He said he'd come on a white horse, right? Yes. You're thinking that Battler will not come anymore. In other words, you have no faith in Battler's promise. That's why there's a trial. To pass through this trial, you'll have to show you can trust him and wait. A trial. I hadn't thought of it that way. Since he promised to come for me in a year, then I need to believe that he'll come for me in a year. If I doubt that, I don't have the right to wait for him in the first place. In fact, Battler might have left the Ushime family because he set his sights on a future with you. Oh, why would that be? If he knows you will live together and eventually exchange marriage vows, having the name Ushimiya would cause problems, since Shannon is a servant of the Ushimiya family. Ah, I see. He realizes there will be all kinds of trouble if he decides to marry a servant girl, so he's abandoned the Ushimiya family name beforehand. What do you think, Shannon? That way everything makes sense. Battler has abandoned the Ushimiya name for your sake. This sudden argument with Rudolph was just an excuse. Well, yeah, I'm glad you like my froggy bag. My froggy bag is probably one of my favorite parts of my design. It was one of the first things I created myself when I first started coming up with the design. What splendid reasoning. Nice going, Rish. What do you say, Shannon? There's no reason to feel down. On the contrary, it's as though Battler has shown his determination first. A smile had finally returned to my face. Of course, I hadn't taken the witches seriously and let myself be reassured. It was closer to the opposite. It was almost funny that they could think of such ridiculously convenient explanations for everything. However, they made all those ridiculous theories to cheer me up. The witches are right when they say I must trust Battler-san. And there's no point moping about just because I've heard a few rumors. Until the next family conference, I intend to strengthen my resolve. And I believe he'll accept my feelings and come for me. The idea that Battler left the family so he could be married to me someday was laughable, of course, but right now I should try and feel confident enough to accept even crazy ideas like that. Thanks so much. I feel a little better now. That is well. I cannot stand watching you cry yourself to sleep. Thanks for coming into my dreams to encourage me. Indeed. It will be morning soon. This is all a dream. You won't remember any of it when you wake. However, your hearts will be at peace. Yes, I'll believe in him and wait. So I won't listen to every little rumor. Very good. Wait until the next conference while improving yourself. If you think of it as training to become a wife, all of your everyday chores will grow more meaningful. Thanks a lot. Rish, it'll be morning soon. Is that so? Then so long, Shannon. You may not remember me, but I will always be by your side watching over you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. The next family conference will be there in a flash. Wait for it at your leisure. Battler will certainly keep his promise. We all know how that turned out. 1 year later. 1981. 5 years until the incident. Pleased to meet you. My name is Kirie. I hope we can all become quick friends. I've known your name longer than I've known Asumu-san's. I hear you're Rudolph's old girlfriend. Yes, we've known each other for quite a long time. Welcome to the Ushimiya family. I hope you find it easy to grow comfortable here. Yes, I'd like to grow comfortable quickly so I can support my husband. But look at how cute that little girl is. What's her name? This is Ange-chan. What a cute name. So you two couldn't make up after all. I thought this would be the perfect chance to bring him back, but he's as stubborn as Dad.
Will Badler-kun ever come back? I'll miss him.
Nothing wrong with a man having enough backbone to find his own way in the world. I'm sure he'll make it big by the time he comes back.
You think so? Right now, Badler-kun's home isn't home for him. The place he comes home to is somewhere else now.
Enough. This concerns Rudolph's family only. It is not our place to meddle.
Thank you, Kraus-Nisan. This is an issue for our family alone. However, I intend to do all I can to see that Badler-kun and Rudolph-san can live together again someday. After all, he's Ange's one and only big brother.
Yep. When that kid gets stuck on something, anything you say to him will have the opposite effect. I assume his father has a bit of a short temper. Looks like he's been adding fuel to the fire.
He'll be okay. I'm sure he'll understand your feelings before too long.
We can't do anything except cheer you on. Even if he doesn't come back, we're all praying the two of you will make up quickly.
It's a bit boring without Badler.
Yeah. I hope he and Uncle Rudolph can make up soon.
Thinking about how Badler-sama feels, it must have hurt. His family basically got swapped around. It probably doesn't feel comfortable at home anymore.
All men need to go out on their own one day or another. It might be just that Badler's time has come.
Do you think so?
I do. It's not cool for a guy to hang around his parents for too long. You've got to leave the nest in a flurry and make your name in the world. I plan to do that eventually, but it looks like he's gone and done it first.
And when he makes his name in the world and becomes a great man, will he come back?
It may be that he never comes back. After all, this might be leaving the nest to him.
Leaving the nest.
Badler didn't come, did he? Oh, how terrible. And I kept telling Shannon he was sure to come. I'm sure she's very upset over Badler's absence. And it's all because I got her hopes up.
She's been looking forward to this day. It pains me to think how she must feel. Thanks, you two. I'm okay. I've been reunited with the witches once again in that dream world. Though I could never remember anything during the day, now that I was in the dream world, I somehow knew this was a reunion. The witches both looked apologetic. Though they tried to cheer me up saying Badler would come today, now that he hadn't come, it was like they'd been lying, and they seemed to regret it heavily.
Shannon. Well...
Thanks for your concern. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sad, but I'll be okay.
Are you sure? Really sure? That would be splendid, but...
Clearly, Badler's fight was so over the top he couldn't bring himself to back down so soon. Men are so stubborn.
Yes, that is true. He tried to act tough before running away, so his stubbornness is preventing him from taking back what he said so easily. He's probably regret not coming today. Yes, that must be it.
For some reason, they seemed nearly desperate in their attempts to encourage me. It was almost funny to watch. I couldn't help but giggle. Thanks a lot, both of you. After all, you're the ones who told me in the first place that this is a test, a trial to be overcome. The truth was, I couldn't really fool myself so easily. When will he come back? When will he come for me? When isn't the question. When will he come for me ever? If I start moping right now, that uncertainty and sadness will probably tear me apart. But they've taught me. This is a trial to see whether I believe in him or not. The very fact I feel uncertain and anxious is a betrayal of my resolve. And of his promise to come for me someday. George-sama said something about it. He said this might be the same as leaving the nest for Badler-san. That's right. This is his chance to leave behind the Ushimiya name and spread his wings as his own man. If you really think about it, we're still very young. Even if we want to be tied together, we're still lacking many years of social experience and trust. If Badler-san is really and truly taking this seriously, then it's too soon for him to come to me now.
Well done. Yes, that's the right attitude. You have done well to reach this understanding.
I haven't reached anything. However, I've decided to think of it that way for now. It's a trial to see whether I trust Badler-san or not. he had come today, then today I would have had to tell Madam that I want to quit my job as a servant. However, was I really prepared to do that? Last night I kept worrying about whether Badler-san would come or not. Thanks to that, not only did I not have the resolve to quit my job, I hadn't even started on the paperwork to do so. Yeah, it's deceptive because obviously they're still using the same sprite for Shannon that we've seen this entire game. But she and Badler are also a lot younger here. They're like in their early teens here. You think Beatrice and Got became more emotionally invested in this over the past year than Shannon? Funny you should say that. In short, I still don't have the determination that I promised him that day. I'm sure that God knew that. Badler will come for me when I found my determination. I wasn't determined, so it's only natural he didn't come today. Yeah, it all makes sense now. So, I'm sure Badler-san didn't come today because I wasn't determined enough. It's only natural since I couldn't even truly believe he would come. I'm sure Badler was the same way. He did not yet have the determination and resolve to come for you. God is not heartless. When your feelings truly do draw close, I'm sure they'll bring the two of you together. Just like Orihime and Hikoboshi. Yes, it's as though the weather just happened to be bad during this year's Tanabata, keeping those lovers apart for another year. That's how I'd like to think about what happened today. That's how I'd like to think about it. I have no other choice. Adler-san. But Badler-kun didn't come back for 6 years. Still a long way to go until then. So you have to wait 6 whole years feeling like that. When one waits every year for something to happen the next, and then the same thing the next year, and the next, it becomes the same as waiting for an eternity. Pretty pathetic, don't you think? After all, this promise you thought you made with Badler seems to be something he knew nothing about, right? Badler does tend to use melodramatic phrases, just like Uncle Rudolph. His roundabout way of putting things might have led to a misunderstanding. Some girl's gonna stab Badler in the back someday. Well, I guess that's more or less what this tale is. When words can mean different things, it can turn a person's life upside down. There are times when careless talk costs lives. I can definitely relate to that. Chapter 7, Sprout of Love, Root of Love. 1 year later. I think... Let me just give me just a second to double check. I think that's where I want to stop for today. I just want to double check. I made a note to myself, but I also don't really remember. Okay, there we go. Yes. Let's save. Okay, so we're getting more and more of Claire's backstory, or technically Beatrice's backstory. We've actually learned a lot about why she liked mystery novels, why she believed in the evil ghosts of Rokonjima, her relationship with Kumasawa, her relationship with Genji, her relationship with Shannon, how she became a witch, and her backstory with Badler is starting to take shape. Now, if you've been paying attention to the previous episodes, I think you kind of know where this is going. Even if so, if you haven't, the game's gonna fill us in shortly. So they're really giving us Beatrice's whole backstory here, but without telling us, I guess you could say her true name, I guess is what they're withholding from us to confuse us. But
definitely interesting. Again, Requiem of the Golden Witch is kind of like a... It's almost like a falling action after the climax we had at the end of episode 6. But there are still things to come after, because obviously we have episode 8 after. I know, like, the middle of episode 7, I really like episode 7, mostly because I like Will. But I know the middle of episode 7 gets very long and maybe a bit drab at times, because it is a lot of, like, expositional backstory stuff, which is a bit unusual compared to previous episodes we've seen. But there's still kind of some interesting twists yet to come, so that is still coming ahead. Now, this is going to be my last stream for at least a week, because tomorrow, as you guys know, I'm going in for my second eye surgery tomorrow. So I'll be out of commission for roughly a week. It could be give or take a day or two, depending on how I feel. But in the meantime, I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, the YouTube videos will not stop because everything's been queued up for like the next 2 weeks or so. So there shouldn't be much of a gap there. But if you're watching this on Twitch, or if you only tune in Twitch, it will be a while. But if you don't already, I'm gonna write it in the chat. I mean, if you want to see other games I've played, other mystery novels, other RPGs, other horror games, I've done Let's Plays of over 60 games now on my YouTube channel, so I'm always there to keep you company. Yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming by, and thank you so much for all the well wishes. I really appreciate it. It's always fun streaming with you guys. I'm gonna miss it for the next while. Let's have a look at Twitch and find someone to raid. Oh, perfect. Nansu is streaming. He's an amazing artist, and he is currently working on some Final Fantasy 16 fan art. So we're going to drop in on him. Please make sure to say not good morning. Please make sure to say hi to him and greet him for me. So stick around, and then I'll see you guys in like a week or something like that. Yeah, nice to meet you guys too, for those of you that are new. Take care of yourselves in the meantime, and have yourself a froggy rest of your week. Bye-bye.